Republicans today introduced a bill coming from Nancy Mace to deport illegal immigrants accused of, let's just keep it light for the first 30 seconds, shall we? Crimes of a particular nature that we find to be heinous, if you know what I mean. 145 Democrats voted against it for some reason, and it's not the first time they tried doing this, but we have questions. Ladies and gentlemen, we're a couple days away from President Donald J. Trump. And it seems like the Democratic Party's not learning a thing. So I guess I'm feeling good. I mean, it feels really bad to see that they are insane. You'd kind of wish they would moderate and figure out why Trump won in the first place. But I guess it's a good sign, considering we have a midterm to worry about in a couple of years. And we don't want Republicans to lose that one. So we got this news. And then it's a weird story, but of course it's making the rounds. Elon Musk versus Asmongold. I know many of you are probably like, what? Curtains for Zushka. No, that's a meme. But Elon Musk was accused of censoring a prominent video game streamer who accused him of cheating. I don't know if that's true, but the story is pretty wild. And the only reason it's actually news is because recently Elon Musk was accused of censoring people over H-1B. So there is this narrative emerging that the corporate press has picked up and everyone's asking questions about. So we'll talk about that. Plus, FBI shutting down their DEI office. Pretty crazy. And then, I don't know, it's a slow news day, so we'll talk about aliens, I guess. Before we get started, my friends, head over to castbrew.com. Pick up some Cast Brew coffee. I should stop promoting Ian's Graphene Dream. He sold sold over 1,300 bags already. Maybe like 1,200 bags of this stuff. His Graphene Dream coffee that everybody can't seem to get enough of. Castbrew.com if you want to support the show. Also, head over to Timcast.com. Click Join Us. Become a member to support our work directly. And you'll get access to the members-only Discord server where there is a whole bunch of awesome content. Morning shows, pre-shows, the After Dark show. Shout out to Roman Nation, a podcast born from the Timcast Discord server. When you join the Discord server, you're hanging out with like-minded individuals. You're making friends, over 20,000 people, and they're all waiting for you to join. And you'll get access to our members-only uncensored show and our entire library of members-only uncensored content, where you as members get to actually call in and talk to us and the guests. A lot of fun. So smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is Ned Ryun.
Great to be with you. Yeah, no, I'm excited. It's been a couple years. And even though it seems like a slow news cycle, we will make sure that it's an exciting episode as we discuss many things.
Indeed. We have some funny clips. We do.
Funny clips. And also, I'd love to talk some of these nomination confirmation hearings.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you said, Democrats appear to be lost, but their A game, if they're bringing their A game, it is a pretty sad A game. And I think it is their A game. And it's pretty pathetic.
What do you do? What do you do for those who don't know you?
So, founder and CEO of American Majority. We identify and train people to run for state and local office, so anything from school board to state senate, anything in between, city council, county commission. Also run a database software program, Voter Gravity.
Cool.
American Majority Action. We did a significant absentee ballot generation and chase project this last year in Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, North Carolina, significant. And I do some writing, new book out, American Leviathan, Birth of the Administrative State and Progressive Authoritarianism, and just really the history of where this administrative state started. And I think one of the biggest fights that's going to take place over the next 40 years is what Donald Trump does with this deeply unconstitutional, un-American, authoritarian administrative state.
Right on. Well, should be fun. Thanks for hanging out. Libby is here.
I'm Libby Emmons. You guys were making fun of me because my kid makes fun of me for my intro. So
you say it a different way now.
Yeah. Like, I'm Libby Emmons from the Post Millennial, and I'm glad to be here, guys.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Labonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and a counter-revolutionary. Let's go.
Here's a story from the Post Millennial. Breaking: 145 Democrats vote against bill to deport illegal immigrants convicted of sex crimes. A bipartisan group of lawmakers voted for the bill, with the legislation passing with 274 votes. No, this must be a mistake. You know how they do these bills where it'll be called like the Save the Puppies bill, right, and then it actually just bans ice cream, and you're like, right, what? This bill must be about something else, right? Certainly Democrats wouldn't vote to protect illegal immigrants who are convicted of sex crimes, no?
Maybe they might.
Maybe they might.
They clearly don't think you should deport illegal pedophiles. This is the insanity of what's taking place. I mean, did you see Gavin Newsom recently and the Democrats in California have decided to put together this $50 million slush fund in which 25 million of it is going to be spent specifically to fight any deportation efforts.
Yeah, it's to protect illegal immigrants.
Right. They have definitely
kicked out by
decided.
Tom Homan.
Yeah, they have definitely decided we are going to side with the 10 million plus illegals, of which not only do we have illegal immigrants convicted of sex crimes, illegal pedophiles, I think there's 660,000 illegal immigrants that have criminal records that have come in the last 4 years. And Democrats are siding with them over the American people. You have to question where their loyalties lie, and I don't think it's with the American people.
I think that's exactly right. You had Tom Homan very clearly saying that the way he was going to begin conducting deportations was to go to the jails and say, okay, if you have somebody who's been arrested for crimes, those are the people we're going to deport. But the Democrats really have said repeatedly that they're not in favor of any deportations. You even had Mayorkas saying that very clearly throughout all 4 years.
But why?
Because they say
They're demons.
Well, they hate America.
they're demons, they hate America, but they also have these logical reasons, which they say is that it would be too expensive to round people up and deport them. They're opposed to this whole family separation thing, which, as we know, Tom Homan had quite the answer for, which was
keep them all together.
Deport them
just
all.
Deport them,
Yeah.
deport them together. No, it's just, if you think about, well, first of all, it's because they hate America. They hate our way of life. If you think about it, what they are doing in destroying our border and our southern border and immigration system, if you can even call it an immigration system, because it's such a mess. They don't want to have border security. They don't want to have sovereignty. They want to attack the very idea of what it means to be a citizen, because they hate the American way of life. I mean, we're a very unique people with a very unique constitution. We have very unique traditions, and the un-American left deeply hates and despises what most of the American people have believed in and stood for generations.
I really think that point can't be, driven home hard enough, and I think that more people need to articulate that. The left just ideologically does not like America. They don't like representative government. They want direct democracy. They don't like the limitations on the government that the Constitution places. Yes. They want a government that can do whatever they want, because they believe that the government can, if you just give the government power, the government can do whatever. They believe that the government could make the moon into green cheese if you just give them the power.
But they don't think that the government can conduct deportations.
No, they do, but they won't admit that.
Well, you had Mayorkas. He said, "What exactly does it mean to remove an individual? What resources? What process? What will the funding be? What if they claim that they're afraid under current laws? What process will they be given? What judge grants their claim?
It's
all of this stuff.
It's all about. Yeah. None of it is real. That is all just about power. They don't want the conservatives to do that, so they will come up with whatever excuse they possibly can to dissuade conservatives, to try to convince people that they can't do it. It has nothing to do with what they actually believe, because they don't actually believe any of that.
And it can be done. If there's a will, there's a way.
Of course.
And I think that Donald Trump is going to unleash Tom Homan and Stephen Miller to actually go after and begin doing this. And the initial starting point are the illegals with criminal records. That's the starting point. And then he just keeps on going and doesn't stop until he's got at least the 10 or 12 million, whatever it is, that came in under Biden. Because not only are they doing this because they hate our way of life, our Constitution, our traditions, all of these things, they were doing it to import new voters. Let's be honest. They were trying to bring in a completely new voter base. And any Republican, and we all know that not all Republicans are created equally. They come in all shapes, forms, sizes, Chamber of Commerce types, all the way to America First types. Every last Republican, for the sake of self-preservation, should absolutely endorse the idea of deporting every last illegal that has come in over the last 4 years.
Absolutely.
If they want to actually have a two-party system instead of being a single-party state, because that's exactly what Democrats are trying to do.
And the American people want that. There have been multiple polls.
It was one of the main issues.
70% of the American people are comfortable with deportations. Not just, okay, we're going to round up the criminals, go to jails and go to prisons and get the criminals that are not American citizens, but they're comfortable with getting everyone that's not an American citizen and getting them out of the country. And I think that is perfectly reasonable for a population to have that position. There is nothing extreme about a population that says the people that are here must be citizens, and if you came into the country illegally, then we are empowered, or the government should be empowered to physically remove you.
Well, and as I think it was Obama so famously said, elections have consequences.
Absolutely.
Donald Trump won. Donald Trump was not shy about what he intended to do in regards to illegal immigration and deportation. And guess what? First Republican to win the popular vote in 20 years. First Republican to win 311 electoral votes since 1988, I believe. And obviously the first non-successive president since Grover Cleveland.
Yep.
This was a historical election in which it was very bright, clear lines about what each one of the candidates was offering.
People saw what it was. People remember what
And
it
they
was like.
chose him definitively.
Exactly. They remember what it was like when Donald Trump was president from 2017 to 2020. They remember what it was like from when Joe Biden got into office until today, and they specifically made the decision, we don't like what the Democrats have been doing.
Can I say one thing? This is the thing that has troubled me greatly about Republicans. I've been in D.C. for about 25 years now. Republicans don't know what to do with political power. Most of them. The American people give them political power for a reason. Donald Trump is different from every other Republican because he understands I have been given political power. I was voted in on very clear issues. I fully intend to use the political power. And I think he's going to have people around him in departments and agencies, once they're confirmed, that will have the exact same approach. We were elected for a reason to actually affect change and use political power as it should be used.
I agree with you. I think that's the proper, not only is it the proper diagnosis, I think that it's the proper course of action by Donald Trump and the people that he appoints. But just for context, I want to point out that like the small government people are the Republicans. So even if you're unless you're like, well, I mean, even if you're a small government person,
like the new people are MAGA.
Well, yeah, and historically, Republicans have been afraid to use, unwilling to use government power because the argument has been, if we do it, then the left will do it. Well, guess what? The left is going to do it either way. So you have to. I used to be very, very libertarian minded, and there's still some parts of my political opinions that are libertarian, but I've moved significantly away from libertarianism because of the fact that just because one side says we don't want to use this power, there is no Mordor to throw the ring into. Right? There's nowhere to get rid of the power.
This is why I've been saying for the past couple of weeks, the slippery slope goes in every single direction. If you do not use the power, they will use it in horrifying ways.
Yep.
When you use the power, they're going to tell you, but the slippery slope, what if they start? No. We have to ban bad things that we don't like illegal immigrants who commit sex crimes got to go.
Right. One of my great frustrations, the left views politics, they're religious zealots, right? It's their religion in many ways. They are religious zealots. We're going to take that political power, and by God, we are going to fundamentally change this country. Our problem has been for too long until Donald Trump showed up, too many careerists in Republican circles were like, we're going to go to D.C., we're going to have a really cool career, we'll trim around the edges, we're not going to really use power to fundamentally change anything, and then once we've had a cool career, we'll move on. Well, it's about time we had our own religious zealots or our own people that actually knew what to do with political power to fundamentally change and restore the republic.
The right has religious devotees. And I would say historically, if you go back a long enough period of time, people were very fervent about maintaining those values. But the reason we are where we are today is because Christians turned the other cheek over and over and over again.
I think that's right.
Not this Christian.
Also think
not you.
No.
But look at the
there's a big streak of Old Testament in me.
It was tolerance. This is why I say it once again. The slippery slope goes in every direction. When Christians very much said we're going to leave people to do their thing and mind their business, and if they choose, they can find faith. If not, whatever. You end up with these books in schools,
right?
Illegal immigrants being protected, who are convicted of sex crimes, being protected by Democrats, because you give them an inch, you'll take a mile.
And that's not justice.
It's not just the.
It's not.
Yeah. No, I mean, but it's not just the illegal immigrants who are being protected. You have, groomy teachers who are being protected. You have, sex offenders all over the place being protected. But one thing that you said, Ned, that I think is really interesting is you said that, to the left, politics is religion. And to them, voting Democrat is like taking the Eucharist. You know what I mean? Like, it is a moral thing, and they can't understand a world in which they have to go against that morality. And I think one thing that we're seeing now with these LA fires is I think a lot of people who are very left are looking at this saying, maybe this wasn't the way to go. Maybe this isn't
they're religious
the right.
people. They have
But
their
they're
own
religious
set
about
of
their
religious
Yes,
beliefs.
they're religious about their politics.
No, but I'm sorry. Every human being in this world has a set of presuppositions and biases by which they view the world around them. They have a set of creeds and beliefs by which they then judge something to be right or wrong.
Everyone worships, sure.
Right. So the left has that, and this is
Right.
what really frustrates me. The whole, well, what we believe in science. Well, no, you don't really, because you don't even believe in basic biology. But they have a certain faith system, and their faith is built in the state. They think the state is salvation. It's
That's
something
right.
that you mentioned earlier, where, I mean, from the early beginning of the progressive movement, they felt that all power, the state should subsume everything, individuals, corporations, because the state was salvation and would bring salvation to the rest of society.
That was
and
even
actually
the
a
advertising
deification
that
of
they
mankind.
had for Obamacare. The advertising for Obamacare was one lady partnered with the government for her whole life.
That's been their plan for the last 100+ years.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are. And people, I think, have been a little confused since Donald Trump showed up. What is going on in D.C.? Like, how did we end up where the duly elected president was essentially targeted by his DOJ, FBI, intel community to take out the duly elected president of the United States? It was a clash of very different worldviews and governing philosophies, constitutional republic versus administrative state. But people were wondering, why do these unelected bureaucrats think they should decide? Well, that was the point from day one. And it was Donald Trump showing up and saying, I reject the premise that this is legitimate, that has led to all this conflict. If you were to look back over the last 8 or 9 years, all of the conflict, Russian collusion hoax, Ukrainian quid pro quo hoax, everything, political lawfare, comes down to one thing: who decides? And Donald Trump showed up and said, I'm the duly elected president of the United States. I'm the one who decides. And the unelected bureaucrats, the administrative state said, no, we don't think so. We think we decide.
Right.
And actually, technically, they were right because of everything that's been going on the last 100 years.
Let's jump to the story from the Daily Wire. It just gets worse. Connecticut Parole Board pardons illegal migrant pedophile who said he might reoffend. Indeed. Take a look at this. A convicted pedophile and illegal migrant was released from a Connecticut prison last month after a sympathetic parole board mulled how to best help him avoid deportation. The Trump administration, the parole board decided, would not be able to get its act together fast enough to deport the illegal immigrant pedophile before his 30-day immigration detainer runs out. They can't elect a Speaker of the House, one board member scoffed. Gurino Maglore, how to pronounce it, 52, was serving 5 years in prison for felony second-degree sexual assault against a child between 13 and 15 years old. He was convicted of sexually assaulting the child on March 11, 2020, just as pandemic lockdowns were starting. During his parole hearing, he said he cannot promise he will not offend again. Maglore scored as a moderate to high risk on an evaluation used to predict whether a male sexual offender will reoffend. Despite those red flags, the parole board released him that day from Carl Robinson Correctional Institution north of Hartford. And once again, it's because they wanted to help him avoid getting deported. That's insane to me. This guy should just
totally
get you know what we do? We bring him to a plane, we put him in a plane and say, we're going to send you back to where you
And
came
you know
from.
what? The
Have a
other
nice day.
thing, too, is like he's probably shocked that he's not getting deported because obviously he should get deported. And he's probably like, not cursing, these fools, are just letting me back on the street so I can molest more children. How exciting for me. What idiots, what morons.
Not only is it idiotic, asinine, it's deeply immoral.
Yes.
I mean, this is the one thing, going back to what we were talking about earlier. Nationalism is the moral imperative of every leader inside of a nation. And by that, I mean prioritizing the nation's interests and the people of that nation's interests. In what world does that prioritize the interests of our nation's people? It does not. And I think the immorality that we have seen on display, not only from Democrats and this kind of absurd, crazy, insane behavior, it's Republicans as well who have not prioritized the American people.
Well, I look at it largely as you go back a few generations, and the further you go back, the more Christian this nation was. The previous generations were turning the other cheek, tolerating behavior like this. And this is my point about the slippery slope. It exists. It exists no matter what you do. So right now, with the Supreme Court makeup that we have and the policies that are advancing, it seems to me like Obergefell will get overturned. Would you agree on that one?
I think so. I think there's some cases that I hope the Trump campaign, the Trump administration begins pushing immediately.
But they don't even need to. A liberal group will file a lawsuit on behalf of someone.
Right.
It'll get challenged to a federal court, the Supreme Court. It will have to do with the president of Obergefell, and the Supreme Court will say, we hereby overturn Obergefell. Gay marriage is no longer recognized in states unless they pass it in their legislators.
I wouldn't mind some of these cases being accelerated by the Trump administration actually generating some of these challenges ASAP.
I think
So
I would like
real
to
quick.
see Bostock overturned before Obergefell.
You know what I want to see happen?
All of it. You just
Well, no, no. Day one, I'm serious. I think this is going to be one of the most important things that takes place in the 4 years that we have Trump, and hopefully we have power for 12 years. But we'll settle for 4 for right now. Trump needs to fire hundreds of thousands of federal employees, and begin the process. No, begin the process by which it goes through the courts. He'll do that. The federal employee unions, which is insane.
Yep.
That we even have
There
public
shouldn't even be
They shouldn't.
unions for
FDR
government. That's
FDR agreed with us,
ridiculous.
by the way. He thought
That's
that was absurd.
absolutely insane.
They'll sue. There'll be a stay. 18 months, 2 years, gets to the Supreme Court. Gets to the Supreme Court, and the fundamental question is this. Does the head of the Article II executive branch, the duly elected president of the United States, get to hire and fire whoever he wants to inside the Article II branch where most of the administrative state resides? And I think this Supreme Court will say, yes, we agree with you. And then Donald Trump can become the demolition man for the administrative state. But he's got to move on it quick, because I think 18 months to 2 years might
that's
be
what
a
we got.
short
That's
Yeah.
it.
route.
Ned,
It might be longer.
That's what Nancy Mace was saying
What's your
last summer.
opinion on getting the bureaucracies out of DC? So
I love it.
Get break up.
I want to
as
send
much-
agriculture to North Dakota.
You
Yeah,
mean like how Facebook moved content moderation to Texas?
We know that when corporations move their headquarters simply by moving them about 20% of the workforce, it's downsized simply by moving the headquarters. So yeah, move agriculture to North Dakota, move another department to Kansas, and break apart the Leviathan that's residing in DC right now. And by doing that, I think you reduce it by 20% right out of the gate.
Astounding.
And I think Trump might actually go for that approach. I think there is kind of all of the above approach in regards to we have to deal with this bureaucracy. I think it is the thing. I think a lot of the issues that we're facing today in D.C., but the country writ large, have to deal with this massive bureaucracy that thinks it's going to dictate to the American people, this is how you're going to live your life.
Well, yeah, and they've been doing that for a while. And they haven't just been doing it in the U.S., but under the Biden administration and Obama, they were doing that globally. They were tying all kinds of funds to like, okay, now Hungary, you have a whole LGBTQ thing. And when the people in those nations push back, the administrations get angry and, start working with the subversive groups in that country to push their agenda forward. I remember I was at a UN thing on the status of women a couple years ago, and there were these women from Rwanda saying, why do you guys keep pushing abortion on us? We just had a genocide. We want our babies.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting how America, the position that we have in the world right now, we can either be a great force for good
Or evil.
or we can be a force for evil.
And we've been evil just too much.
We have, and we've gone in and we have started to deconstruct the moral and cultural fabric of these various countries because of the woke mind virus that has taken over in these bureaucracies, in which they decide we're going to dictate not only to this country but to others around the world, with obviously strings attached to funding and to grants, that you're going to actually implement these woke agendas because we say so.
I think a lot of it has to do with the complete demolition of religion.
Yes.
Because if you look at the way that religion was practiced, the way that this is something I was just reading
Orthodox
about.
Christianity.
The way that like Orthodox religion is practiced, Orthodox religion, Orthodox Judaism, you make everything in your life has to do with how you practice your faith. And so every basic thing is imbued with meaning. And so you go out into the world with confidence that you are practicing a life that is full of meaning and hope and faith just because of those small gestures. And when we take that away, we're all just out here struggling, trying to find meaning in something or other, and nobody can find it anywhere. And so they do this nonsense.
I think it was Sartre, French philosopher, who said a finite point without an infinite point of reference is pointless and absurd. And when you cut the cord to the transcendent, you do eventually devolve into this theater of the absurd in which you just make up things as you go. There aren't any absolutes. I think at some point, it was Francis Schaeffer, who I love, who once said, if there are no absolutes, society becomes absolute, and whatever society says at that moment is what is.
Well, and Sartre's play No Exit exemplified that.
So I think we do have to come. I mean, this country was founded on a common set of ideals and principles and values. And it would be nice if we got back to that, where we get a basic agreement on fundamental issues in which we say, these are right, these are wrong.
Well,
this is what the country was founded on.
If the government exists to facilitate a happy, successful, and fulfilled population. Like, why doesn't it focus on normal families? Why is I personally, I have my own intuition as to why, but like the idea of centering the marginalized lifestyles, you should be focusing on normal families, especially when everyone knows that the birth rate in the U.S. is on the decline and has been.
Demographic winter.
We should be doing everything that we can to encourage the population to have more kids, and we should have policies that endorse that.
Lefties' minds are going to melt when I say this, but we should look at Hungary's approach to what they're doing with policy. Again, this goes back to when you have political power, why don't you use it to actually implement things that are beneficial to society and actually cause fundamental change?
Yep.
I think Hungary spends about 5% of its GDP on actually promoting policies that strengthen the family, encourage growth of the family, and you're seeing it play out in their society. I'm like, we should do the same. We should spend a certain percentage of our GDP towards actually strengthening and promoting the traditional family and actually strengthening families, strong fathers, mothers, strong households.
This isn't an argument against Social Security or against the mandatory spending that we have, but like if we can spend the amount of money that we spend on Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, we can spend some money on young people, trying to encourage them to have children and raise them in a way that makes them want to have children of their own.
Libby, there was something you said about the idea of Orthodox religion being in our lives. And one of the things that, of course, Christianity, I think Judaism and some of the other Orthodox religions teach is the idea of self-governance. And I remind people all of the time, we are a self-governing republic. And people think, well, that's great. The American people are governing themselves. Well, self-government is based off individual self-governance. And the idea of actually having a faith and religious influence on the idea that, at some point, someday, you're going to have to give an accounting to a transcendent creator. There are eternal rewards and punishments for that behavior. The idea of self-governance then leads to better self-government in which people are governing themselves. And the more people govern themselves internally, the less government you're going to need to actually bring order.
But we don't do that now. I mean, that's like, we were talking about a little bit like that before the show. We've eradicated the notion of shame. We've elevated our most base desires to our entitled right. Like that's what we believe.
Celebrated it.
Yeah, we've celebrated it. We, one thing that we've inherited from reality TV shows is this idea that if you don't like someone, you should be a total horror to them all the time. You should just be mean to them to their face. And that's ridiculous too. There's this idea that you're supposed to show up at Thanksgiving and be nasty to your family because you disagree with them about federal politics. I mean, come on. Like, is there anything more stupid than arguing with your family over federal politics?
I feel blessed.
It's ridiculous.
Because I've got liberal family members and they aren't insane and it doesn't come up. We just eat turkey.
Oh,
I think that's good.
That's good.
You know what it is, though? I do think it's the older generation, the grandparents who are just like, stop.
We're not doing this.
Shut up. We're not doing this.
Yeah.
And I have concerns for when they pass on what's going to end up happening. Because I do think a lot of the political bifurcation in this country, it's massive in the younger generations. It's moderate in the millennial, middle-aged generations, Gen Xers, and then it is almost not existent in the oldest generations. So if you look back at, when boomers were in their 30s or whatever, which is like, the 90s, the differences between the Democrat and the Republican Party were slim. Yeah. You look today, it's massive. And despite the fact that the parties are still largely run by the same people, you do have younger people coming in, and the younger people tend to be the firebrands. Yep, totally on opposite ends, not getting along. So when the older generation moves on, I don't know what happens to this country. I mean, maybe right now with the concern I have is Donald Trump only won because of one generation. And you know what generation that was?
Gen X.
That's right.
That's right. We saved the world, baby.
Sure did. And so Gen X is going to have to hold on with a death grip.
That's right.
And double down for the next 10 or 20 years because boomers will be leaving us.
I got my keys around my neck.
Can I say
Gen Z and Gen Alpha, man, we need to make sure that these kids get access to good, clean information. And as an aside, I'm looking forward to seeing TikTok go belly up.
I don't think it's happening.
It's a drive-by shooting on TikTok.
I don't think it is. The Biden administration said they were going to leave it to the Trump administration to enforce
TikTok
the
is
ban.
choosing to shut down.
Yeah.
They're shutting down anyway?
They're choosing
Sunday.
to shut down. There's no bill forcing
What do you
them to
think
shut down.
the Supreme Court's going to say? I think they're going to...
Decision day was Wednesday.
Yeah, but they didn't decide.
Right, which means that nothing's going to happen until TikTok makes a decision to shut down.
Interesting.
They could theoretically do a preliminary injunction, but it sounds like
I don't think the
it
Supreme
sounds
Court
like the Supreme
believes
Court was saying, why would we?
Yeah, they
Congress
don't think
passed
the algorithm is speech. They don't think.
No, that China doesn't have free speech. That's it. Period.
But they didn't buy it. The Supreme Court did not buy TikTok's argument.
Right, but the Supreme Court, many of the members actually said, "Yet no, China has no constitutional protected speech. That's it. Doesn't matter. Algorithm is meaningless. We don't give foreign countries free speech rights from foreign countries into the United States." So anyway, I digress. I was not trying to reignite the whole TikTok thing.
No.
I'm happy to talk about it. I think it's fascinating. I listened to all those arguments.
I did.
Well, we can, but I want to talk about this. We got this clip from Real Clear Politics. Ladies and gentlemen, you want to watch, let me say this. Elizabeth Warren was challenging Pete Hegseth. Okay. Wow, are we in the weeds on politics on this one? And she was basically like, you think generals, shouldn't serve for 10 years and you won't make that pledge today? And Hegseth is just like, I'm not a general.
Oh, and make money. They can't,
Right,
for
they
10
can't
years,
Be lobbyists.
be lobbyists, 10-year moratorium.
And she asked him if he'd make the pledge, and he's like, I'm not a general. And then everyone laughs.
I was
at
in the
her.
room.
It was hilarious.
Yes.
Now, that is an example. I give you another one. This one is Senator Ron Wyden, who makes a ridiculous claim and instantly gets roasted in a rather hilarious way. Speaking of China.
The more you reduce carbon, the bigger your tax savings. Now there is a big effort in the Trump administration to reverse it. I think that's going to be bad for the economy, but it is going to be damn good for China because we are in an arms race on clean energy with them. Are you going to be on the side of people who want to unravel this?
Senator Wyden, just so we can frame this for everyone in the room, China will build 100 new coal plants this year. There is not a clean energy race. There is an energy race. China will build 10 nuclear plants this year. That is not solar. I am in favor of more nuclear plants. And I would note that the IRA, as scored by the CBO, is wildly out of control in terms of spending on the upside.
Well,
It's just, it's so great.
It was great.
China is not trying to do clean anything.
No. But they are trying. The irony here is, well, first of all, I'm happy that he said nuclear. He's all for it. Yeah. I think that is our future. If you really want clean energy, that's what we've got to start. Our approach has to be. The interesting thing about this whole we're in a clean energy race, China has no interest. Clearly, they're building 100 coal plants, all this stuff. What they're trying to do is get everybody else to go onto the solar and the EVs because guess what? They're the ones that are actually producing a lot of those things.
That's right.
Look,
and then all of a sudden you become dependent on China.
You guys see this picture? This story was posted in 2014. This is virtual sunlight in Tiananmen Square. Mm-hmm. Instead of seeing a sunrise, they put up a gigantic screen to show a sunrise because the smog is so bad. China's not doing clean anything. They don't care.
Nope.
Their attitude is largely, quote, it's our turn now.
Yes.
They say, you industrialized, now we industrialize, and you can't stop us.
Yeah, I said this a couple times on the show. It's like if people in the United States are actually that concerned with the green revolution or whatever, then you don't want to focus your attention here. You want to focus your attention on India and China because both of those countries have 1.5 billion people and they are not fully industrialized like the United States is.
Well, the other thing too, like when the U.S. says we're going to pull back on our climate, we're going to pull back on our emissions and all of that stuff, it's just another way to say we are going to subsume ourselves to minorities globally, except they're not minorities. We're the minority globally. They're not.
I think we need to start looking at energy policy as a national security
I think that's a great idea.
issue. No, we have to because if you actually of your own you capitulate and say we're going to go down the EV path, we're going to do solar, all of these things. Again, I think it's 90+% China is actually producing in the world market of EV batteries and I think solar panels as well. You are going to basically subject yourself because they will be providing your energy if we go down that path, God forbid. And then all of a sudden, energy policy is national security, and there is no national security. Like, at some point, we have to get these people who are pushing us to go down this path and say, you are pushing us down a path of being subservient to China, not the distant future, sadly, in a relatively short term if we're not careful.
That's an argument that I heard Marco Rubio making today, that if we don't do something, then he probably wasn't making it today. He probably made it on Monday or whatever. But if we don't do something about our posture towards China, we're going to be depending on China for things that we desperately need, like all our medications, all kinds of things.
Is it penicillin? I'm trying to remember what it is, but like 90% of our penicillin for the army, for the military, is produced by China.
All that's anything that we need for our national security.
Like, there's just so much stuff that is actually a national security issue.
And this is why I think TikTok's got to go. Gotta go.
I don't disagree.
Just get rid of it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, divest from China. It's really simple. Look, there's a lot of people out there who say Trump is altruistic and he is motivated purely by the goodness of his own heart. And I'm like, well, hold on there a minute. Donald Trump certainly is motivated by, I think he's a good guy. I've seen him be nice to people. He's been nice to me. I think he's a nice guy.
Genuinely warm in person.
He is. But he's a human being who wants to accomplish things and feel good about the things he accomplishes. He's a guy who puts his name in giant gold letters on tops of buildings.
You've seen his signature.
It's a beautiful,
very John
beautiful
Hancock
signature.
Yes.
But so TikTok realizes censorship is coming their way. Conservatives are upset about it. So what do? They put a flip on it, help Trump out a little bit, make Trump happy, and now Trump's backed off banning TikTok. I don't care who they're helping. I do not like the idea of China having influence over our younger generation.
I agree. I don't like it.
The only reason Trump won is because of Gen X, not because of Gen Z. And now Trump's going, you know, I think maybe, he invites the CEO of TikTok to his inauguration, says maybe we should hold off on banning it. And I'm like, here we go. Trump's going to get out of office. TikTok's going to go tenfold in the other direction, and we are all going to be worse off because of it.
I'm hoping. I think fundamentally at his very core, Donald Trump is an old school. I love America. I love everything that has made this country great. I want to do everything that will return us to greatness. I think at some point he's going to wake up and realize, I think it's Kellyanne, to be honest. I think Kellyanne Conway has been pushing some of this.
Really?
For pro TikTok?
Yeah. So,
why do you think that is?
I think she's probably getting a consulting fee from them, from what I've seen. I think she's actually a lobbyist for them. She's also taking money from Ukrainians and all that stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a problem with some folks in which they're taking money from interesting sources. That all to say, I think Trump's instincts are going to kick back in when he realizes I have to be consistent across the board on the issue of China. And I think TikTok is part of that being consistent, right? No, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
At some point, it's going to kick back in.
The concern that I have is TikTok doesn't allow, or China doesn't allow TikTok in their own country. That's a red flag right there. TikTok has Douyin. They don't allow TikTok in their own country. Why? I think it's a weapon against young people. Even if 30% of the content is woke, they know they're creating an economic drag to the tune of 30% of the young people who follow that crackpot ideology, even if it's 5%.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong. In the United States, X, Facebook, YouTube, they have the same garbage ideology, but Americans are allowed to have that ideology. What we don't want is our foreign adversaries fanning the flames of an illogical, broken mental state that is wokeness, so that our young people grow up and we end up with a story about a councilwoman in Massachusetts who's taking a month of leave because she's been misgendered.
They've been misgendered.
Wokeness.
I'm sorry.
Wokeness is weakness.
And
no, I agree with this.
Pushed this to an extreme degree until Trump said, let's ban it. And then they kissed Trump's ass. And now Trump says, let's keep it.
No, I think we should. I think we should pull the thread a little bit on the whole wokeness is weakness. I mean, wokeness on energy policy is weakness. Again, going back to national security, but this whole idea of weakening, it's the mind virus in our our younger generations, and weakening them in the face of. I mean, I think we're in for some pretty challenging times on the international stage.
Trump had an executive order in his first term to ban TikTok.
Yes. And then it got blocked.
Yeah, it got blocked.
Then it was only after October 7th when TikTok, so basically what happens is there was a very small footprint of Israel-Palestine content, and then seemingly over the course of a single weekend, it jumped to be 2-1 pro-Palestine. All of a sudden, you get this anti-Israel content, and Democrats and Republicans are like, because they love Israel. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not here to make an argument on Israel-Palestine. The point is, I don't care who you are. China should not be implementing algorithms that manipulate the worldview of the American people. I don't like that corporations do it. The U.S. government shouldn't do it. Yet here we are. One quick thing. Super chatter Ian said, anyone else notice Tim mirroring Trump? I'm literally impersonating him. That was the joke. I'm doing the Trump hands when I'm talking about Donald Trump.
Kellyanne Conway advocating for TikTok on Capitol Hill, March of 2024 from Politico.
And what was her daughter doing?
Probably doing like anti-Israel stuff on TikTok.
No, she was doing a lot of the social media stuff and was heavily criticized for what she was posting.
I'm telling you, there are some people that are taking some very weird consulting contracts that need to be watched.
There's a lot of pro-China stuff that's ended up in my X feed in the past couple days, ever since the whole Red Book came out. And
what's the deal with this Red Book thing? Have you guys signed up for it?
No,
It's just another
Just
app.
like a
but
Chinese data capture?
Look, I will keep it simple. And with all due respect to Bobby Sauce, who was on the show yesterday, we ended up doing this 30-minute long debate over the issue of TikTok, of which he was not as informed as I mean that with no disrespect. He didn't read the bill in a long time. He wasn't familiar with the provisions that were in it. And he wasn't familiar with how TikTok worked or what the bans were, the timeline on these bans. And so my point was just literally, I believe that he exemplifies exactly why we have to shut China's interest in TikTok down immediately. The bill is correct. All they have to do is divest. The app can stay, whatever. But you end up with a guy defending Chinese interests. The debate was not TikTok should be banned outright, goodbye. The debate was foreign adversaries should be, at the demand of Congress with congressional power, forced to divest from American media. That's what the bill does. He argued against that. And the question that Raymond had and I had over and over again is, why should China be allowed to own a mass media program in the United States?
Propaganda.
The answer is there's zero reasons.
Yeah, there's zero reason.
So when you can convince an individual to go on a massive news show and advocate wholeheartedly for Chinese interests, you can see the effect of Chinese propaganda in real time. It's literally that.
Vehicle for injecting their propaganda or their... I mean, they play... The thing that's a little scary, they play the 100-year game.
Yeah.
So, of course, they're going to take this slow, and if it's 30%, like you were saying, they're going to start weakening the woke mind virus, pumping it into the young generations. You know, maybe it causes effects 10 years, 20, 30 years from now. But they're playing the 100-year game. Yeah. But we're allowing them to have a vehicle for propaganda to inject it into young American minds. And I think I know a lot of Republicans, staffers, and members on the Senate side are definitely for, like, we need to actually address TikTok in a forceful way. So I'm kind of curious to see how this plays out in the first 6 months of the Trump administration.
Well, the argument is that Donald Trump will use an executive order to suspend enforcement action against TikTok, which technically could work. I don't think it will. I could be wrong. The issue is that there are fines attached to this bill. Apple and Google would be on the hook. As private companies, you're going to be hard-pressed as an insurer or as a business owner to say, I'm willing to open myself up to massive liability under the promise that Trump decided he won't enforce a law that we're breaking. 4 years after Trump leaves, those fines will be on the books, and Apple and Google will be on the hook for those fines should another president decide to enforce the action at that point.
Right.
So when this law kicks in, the Supreme Court has not stopped it. It doesn't matter if Trump says, I won't enforce against it, if Apple and Google say, yeah, well, we don't want to be involved in whatever that is.
Yeah.
Not to mention, these other big tech platforms might say, hey, we don't want China competing with us in this space. We want to control the data, so we will happily take it down and use you as the excuse as to why we had to.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that it's more than just the influence. I think that it's probably an espionage tool, more than just being able to...
They backdoor everything.
Yeah, more than just being able to influence what people think and kind of fomenting anti-American sentiment, which it absolutely does. You can hear people complaining about the United States and stuff like that all the time.
Was it on TikTok where all of a sudden Osama bin Laden...
Yeah.
Was that the whole push going on TikTok that somehow Osama bin Laden wasn't a bad guy, actually?
Yeah.
This is insane to me.
Yeah, that was insane.
The argument...
He went back to his Guardian letter.
That the bin Laden letter was circulating and going viral, and this is the point. Young people don't know the context. Many of the people that were posting this weren't alive on 9/11, and I mean with no disrespect to these young people. So they don't know the history. They didn't experience it. China, through TikTok, begins then promoting this in their algorithm. So here's what happens. Young people don't read the letter, do the research, come back and say, here's my historical assessment on the bin Laden letter. They say, hey, whoa, this guy got 1 million views for praising Osama bin Laden.
Right.
So then they make a video where they do the exact same thing, repeat the exact same lines, and then what happens? Some 17-year-old kid in high school opens the app and he sees a wall of posts. Bin Laden was right over and over and over again with millions upon millions of views. We need to shut this down. The idea that Trump would defend this. Trump needs someone to talk to him for real. He's got Elon Musk right there. Elon should be like, yeah, dude, look, Elon goes a different route on this one. Okay? We don't want China doing that stuff.
I think it's weird, too, that he just reversed it. And it was just because of after the election, because he used TikTok during the election. A lot of people use TikTok. A lot of conservative influencers use TikTok during the election, and now they're not talking about how TikTok should be shut down. Meanwhile, in the first term, I remember that executive order. It was what, like, was it like September 2020 maybe was when the executive order was to ban TikTok?
Yeah.
And I was like, this seems like a really good idea. Everyone was super in favor of it. And now it's just like a complete about face.
Well, let's jump to this story from Kotaku. Ooh, one of our favorite stories. That's right. Elon Musk and Asmongold are fighting after the streamer accused him of being a fake gamer. Fans have called BS on Musk's path of exile to obsession. Okay, let's slow down there, friends. Many of you watching this show may be like, do you guys know the meme where the guy said, I'm 50 and all celebrity news looks like this? Curtains for Zuzka? Bat Boy flips a grunt or whatever? This is what a lot of people are. I saw a lot of people post this and they were like, they posted the meme next to it. And I'm like, it's very good. Let me give you the English version. Elon Musk is accused of censoring an individual who criticized his video gameplay and accused him of cheating. Thus, the owner of one of the largest social media platforms has been accused of censoring conservatives over H-1B and now an individual who impugned his honor. I don't know that it's actually exactly true or what happened, but Asmongold, a prominent YouTuber with millions of subscribers, saw his verified checkmark disappear while he was sleeping, I guess, and then come back later. To be fair, I do find that kind of hilarious that Elon Musk was just like sitting there at Twitter HQ and he's like, no, delete your verified. And then a few hours later, it was like, crap, and put it back. It's actually kind of funny.
It is funny. And
but
it's transparent.
The accusation, I suppose, is, or I should say the concern is that Elon Musk is abusing his power as the owner of this platform and going after his critics.
I think it was funny. I mean, it's silly and petty stuff.
He did leak DMs too.
That's bad. That I legit think is bad.
Yeah,
you really shouldn't
I don't think you
stuff.
should ever leak DMs. I think that's rude.
And to be honest with you, like there's a lot of stuff that Elon's done lately that I really wish that he hadn't done.
Like H-1B visa stuff.
I mean, not so much that the way that he got into the H-1B visa argument, yes, but banning a lot of people, even like some of the real scumbags that are annoying on X. I don't think that it's good to ban people and stuff like that, mostly because it gives the people that don't like him and would love to say, oh, he's not really this. It gives them something to talk about. So I think he should. If I were him, I would just ignore them and leave it alone. But this is just silly. So I mean.
Yeah, the H-1B thing was interesting because it certainly looked like for a long period of time there was an attempt to get Elon Musk and Donald Trump to fight each other.
Right.
To get MAGA to go after him. Mm-hmm. And then sure enough, when this controversy pops up, certainly a lot of people went to war over it. I do believe there was a campaign, an op, as it were. And it works really well. It's a hard thing to navigate because what happens is...
So you think somebody was facilitating trying to gin up to fracture America first over the topic of H-1B visas?
I would say it is, based on the evidence I've seen, extremely likely that there were bot accounts attacking people and posting abhorrently racist things targeting Elon to try and create a rift. It's fascinating to me. The narrative the week before was that the corporate press was trying to create a rift between Trump and Elon. They were running these stories saying Donald Trump secretly is angry at Elon, saying these things about him. And then Trump supporters were posting Elon and Trump aren't going to fall for it. Then all of a sudden, you get a bunch of accounts that are not verified, and they're posting very racist things. They're making direct incendiary comments with the genetics of an Indian man in particular, and posting his photo over and over again, trying to personally offend a friend of Elon Musk. Many of these accounts. So I'll give you an example. I talk about how you know they're bots. And it's because they post things that are either antagonistic, nonsensical, or don't align with what you posted. For instance, there are a bunch of non-verified accounts with few followers that post weird things in response to anything I do, calling me a Jew. Right? These are not real people.
Right.
There's no human being on their phone being like, wait, did Tim tweet? Better call him a Jew again. When the same accounts over and over again seemingly say the same things over and over again, you're like, yeah, these are not real accounts.
Right.
So what I noticed when this whole thing went down was that there were accounts that, for me, it was interesting because I had initially tweeted, this looks like an op. Got attacked by a bunch of Trump supporters. However, I disagree with Elon's stance on H-1B to a great degree, and I was very much in favor of shutting it down, reforming it, or doing something like that. When I then posted like 7 different tweets about why H-1B was bad, the responses from most of the visible accounts, they responded as though I said the opposite. Because they're bots.
Right. Because
the bots had categorized my account or were assigned to my account as pro-Elon, not or not anti-H-1B.
H-1B. Right.
So I've explained this quite a bit, but the way it works is if a bot farm is targeting you and as an individual running it who's doesn't read English or something, and they use a text generator or something like that. Right. If my account was listed pro-Elon, anything I tweet in relation to the subject would be responded to as if it was pro-Elon. So when I then tweet H-1B is bad, the response is, you're an idiot. H-1B is actually bad and you're wrong. And I'm like, but I said that because they're not real people. So you can see that happening in real time. The average here's why it's hard to fight. The average person can't see that because they don't have millions of followers. So I get 1,000 responses from a wall of bots and I'm like, look at that. Then what happens is some run-of-the-mill Trump supporter who is a real person claims that I accused them personally of being a bot because they disagreed, which is not correct. Mm-hmm. That's why it's so hard to navigate through this stuff.
Interesting.
But regardless of whether there was somebody doing something nefarious and trying to create some, fractures inside the movement, I think it's a legitimate conversation, a legitimate topic to have a conversation about.
No one ever said it wasn't.
No, that's why I'm like, great, let's have it.
Yeah.
I went on TV and said, why are we even starting this conversation about a broken system saying we should expand it?
So here's what happens. A bunch of accounts started posting pictures of Indian people and saying abhorrently racist things while advocating for H-1B. I believe those bots were actively trying to defend H-1B. So it's like a false flag. If the average person goes on X and sees a wall of racist content and then says H-1B is bad, they have an emotional reaction against those people, go to their friends and say, I don't know, all those people that are arguing against H-1B are abhorrently racist, evil people.
So your theory is who was behind it?
The people who like H-1B, I believe, were pushing bot farms. So, I'll put it this way. Some people who are pro-H-1B ran bot farms that were racist, anti-H-1B, to make it appear as though anybody who was a critical of H-1B was woke, right, racist, white nationalist, anti-Semites.
I think it backfired.
And it does overlap with the whole woke, right garbage, too.
But I think it backfired on them.
I don't think so. In what way?
I think we actually had a legitimate, whatever they were trying to achieve.
No, that conversation existed and someone tried exploiting it.
Right, they tried to.
The conversation wasn't created by bot farms.
No, I know, but I think their attempt to take over or redirect the conversation, I don't think that actually succeeded.
It did.
You think so?
When Elon
I think
Musk,
on a broader conversation
when
off
Elon,
of social media, though,
when Elon Musk tweeted that these vile racists should be excised from the party, you see, people don't know what he's talking about because they don't see the bots like he does. And so then when I agreed and said these fringe identitarians should not be welcome, it gets taken by people who are not bots as though I'm insulting them for criticizing H-1B, and so is chaos. And we're not talking about the goal of the bot farm and the operations on social media. The goal is not to create a one-for-one inversion. Like today you will support Elon, tomorrow you will not. Right. It's to create friction and chaos and to increment things by degrees. So it looks to me as, I will say this, one, Bots are true. Elon called them out the moment he got into Twitter and started going through it. We know
Right.
they exist.
Yep.
They operate every single day on every single issue. Some of them get flagged, some of them get banned, some of them do not. I think it was Elon was basically pointing out that the federal government was operating bots to sway public opinion as well. And he said, now I'm going to charge you money because you need verification to be visible.
That was interesting, too, because he said that it was possible that Twitter had been overvalued because there were so many bots.
Yep.
And Twitter had counted them as users.
And they did. That's right.
Yeah.
But my whole thing being
They all do.
whatever
All of
took
the-
place
all of the
online
social
and
media
whatever
platforms.
Elon said, I mean, obviously it was a minuscule part, and I'm sure there were some people that are genuinely racist. Most of them were bots. I think that actually led to a greater conversation about, wait a minute. I would
Let's
argue.
hold on right there. The conversation existed before bots started trying to disrupt it.
But I don't think a lot of people that actually ever paid attention to the H-1B visa program in as much detail or as much attention as what took place a few weeks ago.
The bot attack and the H-1B conversation are two entirely different circumstances. The conversation around H-1B existed.
Right.
It still exists.
Okay. Yes.
The bots trying to sow chaos with racist posts is an entirely separate thing that did not create the conversation on H-1B.
No, it tried to redirect it.
It sowed chaos,
Right.
and it shifted opinions of some people in bad directions.
I guess I would push back a little bit and go, I'm not sure what significant percentage it might have shifted in
It
a
doesn't
certain
need to be
direction.
significant. The point is, if these are, it's all about. I described this the other day. Casinos don't win by going head to head with you in a game of blackjack and winning all your money. They win by winning
Tipping away.
0.5% every year. So when these accounts, I made this point about groypers. I said Nick Fuentes' fans, the people who go in chat rooms and post vile rape threats to children, are not Fuentes' fans. Those are people trying to attack Nick Fuentes.
Yeah.
How do you effectively attack Nick Fuentes? Claim to be a fan and then threaten to rape a child.
Right.
What happens then is a regular person who's never heard Fuentes or heard his arguments says all of his fans are weirdos who threaten children, which is not true.
Right. And you think that has now affected the H-1B visa debate?
Maybe it's 1%, maybe it's 2%. But look, man, I go on X and I'm looking at some of these posts and I see 50 tweets from people posting pictures of Indian people, calling them a whole bucket of racial slurs in every possible direction. And the only thing you conclude is this: no reasonable person who wants to stop H-1B would do that.
Correct.
The
Right.
people who want H-1B want to smear their opponents as evil racists.
Racist.
So
And it
when
was actually
a
pretty
regular
effective.
person enters, a regular person walks into a room and says, "Hey, what's this H-1B thing about?" And they see a bunch of people screaming racist things. They
All
go,
the racists
"Whoa."
are for.
Right. And then
All
they
the
think
racists
maybe
wanna
I'm
ban
not,
H-1B.
Maybe not. I'm not in favor of reforming it.
I don't want to
How
be
many-
involved with those guys. They're racist.
So if there's all these bots on X, how many bots are there on TikTok pushing all this stuff?
Oh man, I assume
Like more.
massive numbers, and we can't see it.
Right.
Like we know that when Elon went into X, we could see these things, but with these other with TikTok, we can't see anything.
But I
No,
think
it's totally obscured.
so. Just my take on this is it might have colored a little bit around the edges, but I don't think it fundamentally changed anyone saying we have to have a real conversation about H-1B visas. And the immediate reaction being, well, you're a racist.
There is an ongoing campaign from disaffected liberals to label people as woke right, to gatekeep and effectively sow discord. And they're doing it because I think Jack Posobiec has it right when he calls them diet woke. These are disaffected liberals who are saying things like, they're basically using the phrase woke right to refer to anyone who is on the right. First, they'll target Candace Owens and say, look at her criticism of Jews. She's woke right. Anybody who has concerns about Candace Owens' views on Jews, Israel, U.S. liberty, whatever, might be like, whoa, woke right. Then James Lindsay calls Orrin McIntyre the example of woke right, and Orrin McIntyre is like a post-liberal. And it's like, well, what? Then he calls Tucker Carlson woke right. Then Michaela Peterson says anybody who's critical of H-1B is a racist woke right, and you see where it's going. Disaffected liberals are creating an umbrella term to call everybody racist the same way the woke left had been doing. This is diet woke. They're doing the same strategy. So when you see a spattering of weird accounts with like random string text names, no followers, and they're not verified, and they're insulting Indian people in rather disgusting ways, I'm like, yeah, it's not a legitimate anti H-1B group. This is an operation to try and sow discord and make the people criticizing H-1B look bad.
What's post-liberal?
So you're going to have to, if you want a great in-depth response, the best thing I would suggest is watching The Lotus Eaters.
Okay.
But I can give you a very, very surface level understanding. So I'm not a conservative. I probably lean post-liberal. The idea being that for the long time, I was a liberal and I believed in universal principles, things that we should hold to be true and protect. And then you slowly start to realize a few things. Liberal ideas actually got us to this problem in the first place by allowing evil people to be evil. Ideas like we should defend free speech, even for those we disagree with, results in people who want to destroy your free speech, destroying it. And so at a certain point, you actually say, we should protect free speech for those that believe in free speech. There's a limiting to the principle, but an easy way I kind of explain. I look at to what it means to be more post-liberal. And again, Carl Benjamin would give you a much better breakdown because he was the OG classic liberal YouTube Gamergate guy. Now the post-liberal podcaster.
Would you describe yourself as post-liberal?
Leaning in that direction. I don't know enough about it, and I don't like joining factions. But I would put it this way: we had the conversation yesterday as it pertained to TikTok, when Bobby Sauce was arguing that if we believe in small government, we shouldn't give the government more power to ban things. And I said, yeah, that's liberal. He chuckled like I was calling him a liberal. I said, no, that's literal. That's a literal liberal philosophy of there are universal principles that must be protected. Easiest example that came up was during COVID. Here's a question for you, Ned. Do you think that parents should have the final say when it comes to medical decisions for their children?
Of course.
So you think a parent that wants to sterilize and castrate their son should be allowed to do it?
Interesting.
No, you don't.
No, I don't.
So you don't believe parents should have the final say. There are certain circumstances where the government should intervene and where the government should not, meaning
Like
there is no
the benefit of culture.
there is
society.
no universal principle over parents having the right of final say on the medical decisions for their children. So during
Where do you draw the line, though?
your personal morals, and that is a post-liberal understanding of, hey, wait a minute. We argued free speech should be for all, and then we realized actually, the communists who don't believe in free speech have weaponized it against us, are taking it from us and destroying everything while we sit back and let them do it.
That's like when people criticize, people don't like what you say. The people don't like if you're saying, we should have mass deportations. And they're like, oh, really nice Christian values you have. And it's
Exactly.
like, you're an
Right.
atheist. Shut it.
Right. Yeah. You don't even believe in this.
I had
So-
someone come at me recently with Christian values. And I'm like, these are the Christian values that I'm upholding, in fact.
The my body, my choice stuff is a big awakening when you realize the hypocrisy of liberals. They say my body, my choice for abortion, but not for vaccines, meaning my body, my choice is not a universal principle to these people's morality.
Intellectually incoherent.
They're not liberal. They're
What's
illiberal.
interesting, too, is you had liberals in the 90s coming down hard on Christian Scientist parents who didn't want to seek medical treatment for their ill children. And those are the same people now who want to get in the way of parents refusing to allow their children to have sex changes.
Let's break it down in the way that really hits the culture war. If a conservative parent has a child in school and that child says they're trans and they want the surgery, the government in a liberal state will keep that information from the parents so the parents don't have a right to make a decision as to the medical treatment for their child. If they were in a conservative state and the parent said, I'm going to help you do it, the conservative state would intervene to stop the parent from doing it. Conservatives would agree with that. And in the inverse, liberals on the other side would agree with the state intervening to give the child a sex change, meaning depends on your personal morals, I guess.
Yeah,
Where do we draw the line is based entirely on what we believe to be good or bad and what will improve this country or not. So post-liberal is more like that, which I think is fairly obvious and correct for that reason as just described. But for me, it starts with my body, my choice. It starts with free speech. The left has this Karl Popper meme where he's like, if you tolerate intolerance, eventually the intolerant win. And we scoff and laugh at them as they utilize this fascistic ethos of might makes right against us. And for the longest time in the 2010s, I, as well as the classical liberal bunch, kept saying, if Twitter bans a leftist, we will stand up to defend their free speech because we believe in free speech. The moment they got unbanned, they'd come out and file reports against us to have us banned.
Well,
Boy, were we stupid for doing that.
It's like the Neil Gaiman thing.
I will defend free speech for someone who believes in my free speech.
Right.
So if Nick Fuentes says we should have free speech and they go to ban him, I'll say, hey, look, man, he stands on the principle, may not agree with his opinions, but he deserves free speech. But a communist trying to strip away our rights to free speech, when they get banned, I'm going to say, ha, ha, ha.
That's like with the whole Neil Gaiman thing, the author. So he's been alleged to, sexual stuff. He did wrong sexual stuff, apparently. It's what everybody's saying. But he was opposed to women's rights and in favor of, men being in women's bathrooms and men being able to be called mother and all of this stuff. So you have all of these sort of post-feminists who have been saying, Me Too went too far, looking at Neil Gaiman going like, well, enjoy it.
Yep.
I haven't said anything about Neil Gaiman, and I was like very opposed to the whole Me Too thing. And it's like he's been out here, advocating for child sex changes and whatever else. And I'm just like, well, suck it, Neil Gaiman.
So
enjoy
one thing,
enjoy your allegations.
I think another thing. So basically, on the surface, it might appear that post-liberals and conservatives have a lot of things in common, but they're actually quite different. Mm-hmm. Conservatives have traditional moral values they want to uphold. Post-liberal is not too different in some ways, but largely about realizing the liberal ethos led to the creation of policies that have destroyed everything. For example, the 1964 Civil Rights Act is an absolute outcome of classical and then traditional liberalism. What does the 1964 Civil Rights Act give us? HR departments.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
By law, there's nothing you can do about it. So we actually have a couple stories about DEI departments shutting down, and Phil made this point before the show started. So long as they have HR, they have DEI.
Right.
And it's because as someone who runs a company, I know exactly what the insurance companies require. I am required to have insurance. There are certain things I can't do without insurance. I'm not going to get into the great details, but yep, you want to buy a certain product to run it for your business, they're going to ask you if you have insurance. You want to open a store, you got to have insurance. Insurance company is going to ask you, what do you do to mitigate against these particular things? Why would we insure you if you're going to get sued for a violation of all of these rights? So long as that all those titles exist and the Civil Rights Act exist, you are going to be required by law to have weird things in your business. You will, let's say you have a business and you're in rural West Virginia, which is 99.9% white. You will get sued for being racist, and they will cite the fact that your company is majority white. And when you try and argue it's because people here are white, it won't matter. You will lose. But let's actually jump to that story. From Mediaites. FBI shuttered DEI office ahead of Trump's inauguration. Now, why would they do that?
No, they didn't.
They didn't do it?
No, they did, but I think they're probably just embedding them throughout the different parts of the agency.
Oh, right.
No, the woke mind virus is metastasizing. This is what concerns me a little bit. Yeah. Not only at FBI, I've heard some of this taking place at DOD and other places. We're going to shut down some of this stuff. They're not, on the surface, it looks like they are, but they're just embedding these people in different departments, different parts of the FBI. No, it's
they're not firing anybody, right?
No. So that's why.
Well, Cash,
Cash,
you got your work cut out for you.
This is what I want to. I want them to have timestamps from November 6th, maybe even November 5th, but November 5th, 6th, timestamps on when did these people get reassigned from, say, a DEI office? Where did they get placed? Who are they? What have they been assigned to do to figure out what they're trying to do by embedding these people in different offices, and say, yeah, we went back and looked at the timestamp and we know what you're doing and we're not going to tolerate it. So yeah. I've suggested that to some of the nominees. Go back and look at timestamps when they started doing this maneuvering and figure out what they're doing.
Is the answer simple then? When Kash Patel is confirmed as head of the FBI, he just looks at anybody who was in the DEI department and just fires them?
Yeah. Look at a timestamp. No, look at when they were moved. Probably they were moved post November 5th, and go, yeah, that's great. Well, the thing is, until you can firmly decide the head of the executive branch can fire these people, one of the other things that I've proposed, just start a department of elimination until you can actually solve the fundamental question. Just send them and say, you're reassigned to one of the hundreds of empty government buildings. We're not going to have you resist or cause problems or try and stop Trump's policies. You've just been reassigned to this department of elimination. You get to show up at an empty desk, no computer, read a newspaper, read a book. Well, you're not going to do any more damage to Trump and his policies.
There's things they can do, like you can have them move boxes from one room to another,
Stuff like that. No, I think everything, GS 14, 15, and SES types are the ones that really lead the resistance inside.
I think everyone GS 13 and above should get fired, but that comes.
That's why I've suggested start. I'd say GS 12 and 13s, but sure.
Hey, look, you want to add to it?
Right,
Fine, man.
No, but you're right. I mean, it's those. That's where you start to get to these guys really starting to make decisions. GS 14s and 15s really think they are the deciders. Mm-hmm. It's like, we're going to move you out.
I got it. Wait. How many FBI agents are there that you think we could reassign?
Well, so I just got told by someone that's a current agent that about 40% of the, I think it's current field agents, maybe it's the agents at headquarters, but it's a significant percentage came in under Christopher Wray.
There's only 38,000 FBI agents right now.
So wait. Are we saying there's 40% of those that we could reassign because we don't need them?
I don't trust them. Let's just say for starters, I don't trust them. I think you can lose half of them.
That's not my question.
I think you can lose half.
So I think we're looking at half, so 19,000.
Yeah.
Let's send them all to a facility in Alaska and have them work on the 3x+1 problem.
Well, Ned and I were talking about this earlier.
This math problem has baffled mathematicians for 50 years. 19,000 people.
Nome, Alaska.
In Nome, Alaska. Just sitting in a room.
That's where the new FBI
numbers.
headquarters are.
Yeah.
That's where the new beautiful FBI headquarters will be, Nome, Alaska.
And
go up there and solve these problems.
Well, it's one problem. And it's just, we're going to have you all.
For decades.
So the 3x+1 problem, it's basically, let me actually give you the full breakdown on this one. How it basically works. It's you take a positive number. If it's even, divide by 2. If it's odd, multiply by 3, then add 1. And eventually it'll collapse and come down to 1. And so we're trying to figure out if it's true or not. It's just presumed. And it's not been solved. But 19,000 people of rudimentary mathematic experience, I think we could solve that problem. So
it might take them like 4 years.
I don't care.
5 years, 6 years.
There's things they can do in the meantime.
But Ned and I were talking earlier, and I think that he mentioned something that I didn't even realize, that when you relocate a large agency or a business, 20% of the personnel decide they don't want to move.
Yeah, they're not going to move their families.
Yeah,
they're not going to relocate schools.
So this comes back to something that we've been talking about here regularly. Break apart all of these agencies that are in D.C. and send them throughout the country, and you'll get a massive downsizing of the federal government. Just because of the movement.
If trends would hold true, about 20%. I mean, there's 800,000 that the government has, 800,000 federal employees that the government of its own volition has deemed to be non-essential.
Yeah, 100%.
800,000. Let's get them out.
Let's
go. You're done. And that's why
Here we go. Attu Station. It's the westernmost point of the Aleutians.
Oh, that's where the new FBI headquarters are going to be.
I think we should do that.
Yeah, great.
Attu Station. What is this?
I mean, that's great for the FBI, but there's a boatload of other bureaucracies that need to go. Yeah, totally.
Department of Education should cease to exist.
Absolutely. Agriculture should go to Des Moines or something.
It shouldn't exist.
Yeah, 100%.
Let's shut it down. I want Linda McMahon to go in and say, I have an announcement, day one. I have an announcement to make. I am the last Secretary of Education. We are going to be shutting this down over the course of 4 years. And before Trump's gone, as everybody has left the building, he just implodes the building.
Yeah.
Raises it to the ground.
Look at this.
Hey, building. DC is short on housing. Just
look where this is.
No, build a Freedom Park over.
Look where Attu Station is. You see that? That little red dot, westernmost of the Aleutian Islands. And the population density is 0.
Good.
0. I say we take them all, we send them there.
Then we're going to have to build a bridge to nowhere.
I think
I got to be honest though.
I think we'll get more than 20% if we do that though. I think we'll get rid of more than 20%.
Yeah, I think we'd go from half of 19,000, we'd be down to like a handful.
I mean, it actually looks like a really fun place to visit, to be honest. Like I would actually love to go and check this place out. There you go. Here's your building. They got bikes.
Wow.
There's an old plane.
That's cool.
Look at all that.
B-17 from World War II,
man.
You'd
be safe from the zombies.
You should start the tourism department, and then you could pitch it to the 19,000 FBI agents.
Into some
tourism.
They'd have a little city. Look at this.
Beautiful.
Look at that. That's a nice
beautiful in
building.
the summer. Probably have like 23 hours of sunlight.
So the population is 0.
A lot of mosquitoes.
Yeah. Winter is a little depressing.
A lot of mosquitoes in Alaska?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I worked up there in the summer.
It's because you assume it's cold, but in the summer it's daylight all day.
And everything melts.
And the vegetables get big.
Yeah.
In North America, there's the same, or in Canada and Alaska, there's the same biomass of mosquitoes as there is in the Amazon, but it's in half the year as opposed to it's year round in
Oh, wow.
the
There's a lot
Amazon,
of
so
mosquitoes here.
it's pretty bad, yeah.
Oh, wow, man. There used to be people there, 15.
15 people?
There were 19 men and 1 woman. Yikes.
But this is just one agency we're talking about here. We got how many other? We got the whole Department of Transportation. Should
Look, the
probably be shut
Aleutians
down.
have a lot of islands.
but
A lot of conversations about people are talking about reducing the size of government. Great. It's reducing responsibilities.
yeah,
Like, where should government be? Where should government not be? And I think that's one of the conversations that we should have with the American people. Of what should our government look like? What is a proper government for a representative democracy, which progressives don't believe in, by the way? What should it look like? Where should it be? Again, their whole approach is the state of salvation. It should invade every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
People have asked, why is there continual
They want it for
perpetual growth of the
everything.
state?
Yeah.
Because they want it to invade every aspect of your life. Until salvation comes to every aspect of your life, the state should continue to grow. So it's in the DNA of the
Because
state.
they think the state is salvation.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's how they believe. And then we need to have a conversation.
It's the ultimate company store.
Yeah. But the conversation needs to be had. Let's get back to a rights-based government. Government is meant to secure these God-given rights and take none of them away. And so this is the conversation that has to be out with the American people. But the beginning point is break apart the Leviathan.
Yep.
Downsize it, but downsize the scope. It's when people talk about limited government, I think too often they look at, well, government should be limited in size. It should be limited in scope.
Do you think that so to have that effect, do you think something like the necessary and proper clause need to be amended, or the commerce clause? Because those are the two clauses that actually allow the government, or that give the government justification, or the justification
to
they
expand
use
into all these
to
aspects of our
expand
lives?
into all. Yeah, exactly. I mean, because the Constitution does articulate the powers that the government has, and then anytime they want to do anything, they say, well, Congress has the power to make laws that are necessary and proper. Oh, this is to regulate commerce between the states. Which, if you look at if you look at the definition of regulate when they made that, it has nothing to do with being able to just tell people they can't grow wheat on their own property to feed to their own cow or whatever.
But I would go back to most of the administrative state is inside not the Article 1 legislative branch, it's in the Article 2 executive branch, and the head of the executive branch should be able to decide what is necessary, what is not necessary for the Article 2 executive branch to run effectively. And if he gets that question answered, he can decide this is not needed for this to be used effectively for the American people. I'm going to shut down this department. I'm going to shut down this agency. We're going to fire this many federal employees. We're going to fire. I don't think a lot of people know that there's twice as many federal contractors as there are federal employees.
Yeah,
it's about a 2-to-1 ratio. Like, we're going to get rid of, there's 4 million. The last I checked, there were about 4 million federal contractors. We're going to fire
4 million federal contractors.
Yeah, just for the federal government. About 2 million federal government employees. That doesn't include military. Like, too
many.
Yeah, what does government, a representative democracy government that is meant to secure rights, take none of them away, what does that actually look like in practice in the 21st century? And the head of the Article 2 branch, I think, should be empowered to be making that decision in some ways.
Not that I think that an amendment is possible. I think that it would be some kind of long shot. But do you think that it would be functional to have an amendment that actually outlines what the government's role should be? Like, because it should be like in my estimation, I'm close to the idea that there should be a government that should provide courts for redress of grievances. They should defend the borders, and then they should protect property rights. And that's it. That's all those are the legitimate functions of government.
Which, by the way, do we actually have private property if we have property taxes?
No, and I think that should be adjudicated.
Yeah, you're just paying rent. But really quick. I mean, I think you lead property rights. The founders believed that you had a right to property, and there's property and rights. And I think if you don't have actual real private property because of property taxes, I think you undermine the whole idea of actually what does it mean to have rights.
I agree completely.
I want to jump to the story, but I just realized that the pop-up on the Post Millennials Libby on Timcast IRL.
Look at that.
But it was you on IRL.
Hi.
That was me on IRL.
How's the
your
introduction?
Martinsburg space.
That's right.
Yeah.
Libby.
I was like, that's a big chair. I was like, wait a minute, that's my window.
What's the introduction for you?
that's
So you can do it for your
totally
son
yours.
again.
You want me to do it?
Yeah.
I wonder if he's watching. He might be. He asked me for the link.
Oh, is that why you?
Hi, I'm Libby Emmons from the Post Millennial.
There you go.
You do say that.
Yeah.
That's what he.
All right, everybody.
He has me do. Yeah.
From the Post Millennial, DNC taps staffers behind misleading Kamala HQ account to combat misinformation. Oh,
Thank
boy.
goodness.
They will, quote, combat online misinformation and respond to the Trump administration actions by pushing out memes, videos, and graphics. In other words, they will lie.
Yes.
Yep.
They will lie. And what's interesting, too, is remember how with Kamala HQ, immediately there was a Kamala HQ Lies X account that popped up?
Yes.
So there's a Fact Post L's account that has already popped up to debunk all of the nonsense that this Fact Post account publishes. So, yeah, I think that's pretty interesting. It also, one thing is that if the DNC is hiring Kamala's Gen Z X
Losers.
staffers, they really haven't learned anything from this election at all. They're just going to keep going on and doing the exact same stupid nonsense that they were doing before. Lying, taking things out of context, misquoting, false allegations.
So I think this is an
and
interesting
that's what the
question,
DNC is going to do. And the DNC doesn't even have a head yet, but they're going to come in with this cohort ready to go and perpetrate
So based off just even some of the
misinformation.
confirmation hearings over the last few days, I think it's an interesting question. Democrats do seem to be in disarray. Obviously, they're not bringing their A game. At what point do we think they will ever come to the conclusion the path we are going down and we have gone down is a destructive one to our party and for us achieving political power again? We might want to rejigger this whole thing and maybe not continue, or are they just going to simply double down?
Well, I guess it
Because
depends
their
on who
mind
they
is
pick
so
for
broken.
the DNC chair and maybe which way they go, right? Because they have two directions they could go in. They could go hard progressive left
I think they will go that way.
and like, boost AOC and Rashida Tlaib and whoever else didn't get voted out from that whole squad. Or they could go the more moderate approach and say, well, of course, we do need to have more border control and we do need this and that. We do need to reduce, sterilizing our children, and we do need to promote families. So they have a choice to make, and they haven't decided what choice they're going to make yet. They don't know
What's
what
your
they're
bet?
going to do. What's my bet?
Yeah.
I think if they have no sense, then they'll go progressive. They'll go even harder progressive.
I don't know if they have the ability to because I think the woke mind virus has broken their brains.
I don't think they have anything else because if you look at it, the establishment ones, they're
What do you
older than
think?
Joe Biden.
I think people view the world and humans as this group that shifts around, watches the news, changes their minds. The reality is
They're fundamentalists.
people's minds are developed in youth and largely solidify. The reason the Democrats began embracing wokeness is because younger left-leaning individuals started aligning with Democrats. Thus, the Democratic Party officially adopted the DSA as a component of the Democratic Party. The DNC cannot moderate because young woke people genuinely believe in their crackpot cult. They're not going to wake up from it. This is their whole worldview.
They're fundamentalists in their views.
Yes, and what's going to happen is people like Pelosi and Schumer, who have entertained it for power, they still moderate it to a certain degree despite entertaining it. That's weakness. When they pass on, the younger people who move into the Democratic Party are going to be full on woke, and it will be that much worse.
I agree. I don't think they have. I think the trends have been put in place. I don't think there is a way for them to stop these trends until this next generation that is completely embraced this fundamentalist woke mind virus passes away, and that's not for a long time.
Gen X is the reason Trump won. Boomers still are leaning a little bit conservative, silent generation as well. But once we lose the older generation, I don't see how we get another populist right president.
So I'd bring up an interesting point. I think
TikTok.
I think the 2028 elections are far more important than people understand because of what happens in the 2030 census.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you hold on to power in 2028, and by that I mean America First Republicans, and it might be J.D. Vance, it might be somebody else, you hold on to power then, the 2030 census and the shift from these blue states into the Sun Belt and other key states down south, I think all of a sudden it becomes a decade of power.
Take a look at this from Civics. Here's the Donald Trump favorability as of today, 53% unfavorable. 18 to 34, 61% unfavorable. 35 to 49, 56 unfavorable. 50 to 64, 51% favorable. 65 plus, 50% favorable. This is not, there is not going to be a great awakening of the reason why generations skew one direction. It goes more and more liberal as time goes on. It's because the younger generations are exposed to liberal ideology.
Indoctrination centers.
When they turn 30, they're going to hold those same views. So when 18 to 34 becomes 34 to 49, then what you're going to see the 35 to 49 bracket have a 61% unfavorable rating for Donald Trump. As the older generation passes on, this country is going to go woke. And we're only lucky right now that Gen X, which was the largest bracket supporting Donald Trump, came out and voted for him, and the Republicans. Without Gen X, that's it. Now, the other issue is when boomers go, and they do support Trump a little bit, it's going to be much more difficult for Gen X to maintain this. And Gen Z is leftist. This is why I say TikTok is so dangerous, but it's not just TikTok. Our own companies do the same thing, pushing this crackpot ideology. And I believe largely that either this country is sick to the core or Democrats are intentionally burning the country down.
Well,
Both.
I mean, yeah, I've said
Perhaps.
this a boatload of times. Like, a happy population doesn't engage in revolutionary activities. So if you've got people that are ideologically bent on creating like the perfected society or having a revolution in the US, you want unhappy Americans. You want people that are disaffected. You want people that are not pleased with the way that their lives and the country is going, so that way they will engage in revolutionary activities. You don't get happy people that have kids and have happy families and stuff. They don't want to engage in revolutionary activities because they're like, man, my life's good.
So a couple things. I mean, kind of what Tim was saying, like the numbers look pretty grim moving forward. I think that should actually inspire those of us that are involved in politics in a day-to-day basis. We better figure out how we actually get the numbers in our favor before 2028 in regards to voter reg, AB Gen, all these things in key battleground states to hold on to power in 2028. And then I think census numbers give us another 10 years. But then that leads to the next point. At some point, and J.D. Vance has talked about this, I endorse it. We should talk about the endowments for these indoctrination centers.
Yep.
And let's have a conversation about what you're actually doing in bringing these younger generations and indoctrinating them in destructive ideas that are going to ruin this country in the future and actually allow China and other countries to dominate us.
The Communist Control Act was a thing for a little while. It's no longer a law, but I think that they should revisit the idea. I mean, there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with saying we need education to uplift our way of life, and we should reject people coming into our country that want to subvert it.
Yep.
There's nothing, there should be nothing objectionable or even particularly odd about that sentiment. If we as a nation want to survive and we like our way of life, we should have schools teach that the United States is a good place, not that the United States is a bad place. We should have and if we're going to allow immigration at all, we should only allow immigrants in if they
benefits
believe
the country.
Exactly. If they believe
And
in
they
the
buy into the
ideology
ethos.
and they want to become Americans. They have to want to assimilate. You can't bring the old country's ways with you. I'm sorry. If you want the old country's ways, go to the old country.
Right.
But you're not making our country like the old country.
Kind of goes back
Well,
to what
that
I
was
was
the
saying
idea.
earlier.
Yeah, go ahead. No, that was the idea originally. It was like, you could bring your food and bring your fashion and some of that stuff, but like basically you have to become an American. Assimilation was a huge deal.
You have to buy into the ethos.
Right.
We're not an economic zone. We're not some random spot in the world. There's a very specific and unique culture and way of life and how we approach things.
Yeah.
Constitution, our government, all of these things. And I think immigration policy should reflect that. I mean, again, it goes back to the conversation earlier in which they're trying to destroy this country via immigration policy because they hate it.
Yep.
Our immigration policy should actually be implemented. Going back to the H-1B, does this actually promote the interests of our culture and society? All immigration and visa policy should actually be pointed in that direction. It goes back to what is the moral imperative of every national leader? It's to promote the interests of the nation and its nation's people.
And if you don't want to promote, like if you don't want
what is best for them?
Yeah, if you're not if you're not America first, why are you even running for a position in government?
Yeah.
There are people who have this fractured view of the world. They're not smart people. They don't read. They get their information from songs, and not good ones at that. And so their reason for joining government, some of these people, it's the only way to get their name in the history books. For others, they're literally trying to burn it to the ground. It's remarkable to me that there are people who are raised in this country who hate it. That's particularly rare for a lot of the other developed nations, that you have this massive,
It's true in the UK.
that people hate the UK.
Yeah.
To be fair, like the UK is in serious trouble.
Oh, it's
Serious.
a
But I mean, like,
Because of
let
immigration
me rephrase, I
policy.
suppose. There has
Not
been an
just.
increase in the
Well, I know,
West
it's more than that, but
of
still.
younger generations who despise their own countries.
Right. Yeah, I think part of that is that we have eradicated the reason that the countries are good in the first place. We've taken away the moral values. We've taken away, civic society. We've taken away civility. We've taken away all of the things that, as you were saying, would make you govern yourself and feel good about who you are. We've destroyed meaning. We've said meaning is irrelevant. And then you have people going in search of
We settle for your truth, my truth.
Yeah, people
and
go
annihilate the
look
idea
for
of objective truth.
witchcraft, to try and be part of that. People are desperate to be part of something, and so they're searching for meaning and something to make them feel valid in the world. And if that's the road you're on, if you're staring into the void looking for anything to grab onto before you fall into the black hole of nothingness,
Nihilistic.
you're going to grab whatever it is that shows up your way. It's like, it's like the girl with daddy issues, the first guy at the bar, she goes home with him.
Goodbye. It is now time to say goodbye.
Merrick Garland saying goodbye.
That's nice.
Oh, thank God.
I don't mind that.
That weasel.
I'm glad he wasn't a Supreme Court justice.
Yeah, thank
know.
God.
Wow.
Like
I know.
I remember when that was going on, and I was like, Mitch McConnell's being a real stick in the mud. It's like 9 months left, and it's like, no, that was a good job. Good
Mitch
job,
McConnell.
Mitch McConnell.
Listen,
that was like the
one of the only good things
you
he's
did.
done.
Everybody can complain all they want about Turtle Man, but he saved America from Merrick Garland,
McTurtle.
Sitting on the
he
Supreme
saved
Court.
America. Like all of the good things that the Supreme Court has done in the past. I don't know however long it was, since 2012 or 11 or whatever when he was. All that good stuff probably wouldn't happen without Mitch McConnell.
Did you guys watch some of the confirmation hearing for Pam Bondi?
Yeah.
In which I can't remember which senator or
I
Democrat.
can't
of
believe
course.
she's 59.
I know.
can't either.
She looks good.
Yeah.
She
She's
does.
like 43.
Yeah.
The question being, well, how can we be sure that you're not going to weaponize the DOJ against
And she's
political?
like you did. And she was like, wait, you just did that?
Are you? That's a serious question.
Yeah.
Have you not watched Merrick Garland the last 4 years?
Well, it's 'cause they're
weaponize the DOJ. They are evil.
Yeah.
Now, this is. You know what? I'd love to have the conversation about. In our society, we should have a conversation about there is good, and there is evil, and we should promote the good, and we should destroy the evil.
Yes.
That's a good way to go. Get thee behind
For
me,
the benefit
Satan.
of society, we should say there is good, there is evil.
Yep.
But for that to happen, you have to have standards and principles that everybody agrees, and the idea of absolutes. It's not your truth, my truth. It is truth.
Yeah.
It's not subjective. It's objective.
Yep. It's true. There's always going to be the postmodern perspective, right? Like people think that quantum physics applies to like normal everyday interactions and stuff. And fair enough, your actual perspective does matter, but that doesn't change the fact that you can talk about things that are true that in a way that is close enough to fact to be functional for a society. That's why, even though a lot of the stuff in the Bible isn't true, like it's not like the stories were didn't actually happen the way they say in the Bible. But if you live your life
I don't know
away,
that's true.
I don't know if that's true.
I do. Anyways, the point that I'm making is
Word of God.
the point.
Truth of the Word
I
of God?
know, like
the
it's
point-
the word
Wait a
of
minute.
God,
We can have a
Phil.
conversation.
No.
about
But listen, the point is it's functionally true. The point is if you live your life according to the things that the Bible says, you're generally going to have a
Well, the
society that
Ten
works out
Commandments
better.
is like basically a socio-technological advancement.
Yes.
Yes.
So and whether it comes like
So are the Beatitudes.
you guys are more than welcome to your religion and to believe that the Bible is the word of God. But the point is If you live your life
By
according
the Ten
to
Commandments. If
Yes.
we were to just say society should be ordered around the Ten
That would be
Commandments,
that'd be a good jam. That would
it would
work
be a
out.
great society.
Yeah.
You shouldn't
Yes.
murder. Oh, okay, that's pretty obvious. You should honor your father and mother. You should not commit adultery. You should not covet.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't drive yourself nuts wanting what the other guy has.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a good way to order society. That's why God handed them down. And
Yeah.
you should order your society based off these commandments.
They
We
were-
had this
those are
conversation
super
with
smart.
Seamus on the show like a year and a half ago or so, and I said from a liberal perspective, if you break down the commandments logically, they all make sense. That if a secular individual were to follow these, you would have a better society.
Yes.
So we
Have
pulled
a
them
good
up.
life.
That's not controversial either.
It shouldn't be.
But it's actually quite simple, right? The obvious ones: don't commit adultery, like we agree with that. Don't bear false witness. Honor your parents. Don't murder. Don't covet stuff. Don't steal
steal.
or cheat.
Yeah.
But then there's two. Or actually, there's three, which is the first commandment: having no other gods. The 9th and the 10th, remember the Sabbath day, keep it holy, and you shall not take the name of your Lord God in vain. I can break that down very simply in a secular way as to why that still logically applies. Because if you were to apply the word God as in the moral structure, or I should say from a liberal perspective, this system and what you are following, let's write these up from a secular perspective. The first commandment would be, you shall have no other moral frameworks aside from this. That's basically what it's saying. Do not worship any other ideas or ideologies. The 9th is, that one's actually quite simple. Take a day for yourself to
rest.
recover.
Rest. Yeah.
And the last one, of course, is don't use the name in vain, is literally do not disparage these ideas for which you live a better life.
And don't curse
Now-
people.
Be consistent with them.
I'm taking a secular approach to it, but I do think it's actually quite simple why we all think this way. We were all raised in a society of Christian moral values.
Judeo-Christian.
So when we look at these, we say, that makes sense. Go to China. They're going to be like, what do you mean?
Well, these things.
Some of these,
yeah.
they don't have the same moral structure as we do. They
These things are foundational to Western civilization. And when we eradicate religion, we eradicate these ideas, it is in service to destroying Western civilization. And that's why communists hate religion, as Phil could tell you. You know, that's why you have all of these hard leftists being really in favor of ideologies that destroy family, that destroy society, that destroy,
the
you know,
Judeo-Christian framework.
the Judeo-Christian framework, you know, love God or not, the Judeo-Christian framework created peaceful, high trust societies. It created the concept, the very concept of civilization was created because we had ancestors buying into Judeo-Christian values. That's where, you know, I think
the
that's,
Romans had civilization before.
yeah, but it wasn't as good. They had slaves
But it was-
underground pumping water. I mean, they had
greatest-
all
But it was still
kinds of messed up stuff.
civilization.
Yeah, but the greatest amount of freedom and prosperity that the world has ever seen came from Judeo-Christian values.
Yes,
That's fair.
I would agree with that.
So, I totally agree. You know, Rome was a great empire for 1,000 years, but greatest amount of freedom and prosperity for the most amount of people came from Judeo-Christian values.
Greece was good too, but they left their babies on hillsides.
How did it work that like you're a slave in Rome and like how would they know? You're like walking down the street and they're like, you're a slave now.
Well, if you were like if Rome conquered your spot, the place where you lived, if Rome conquered you, you were a slave. And if you were a Roman citizen, that meant you could either buy citizenship or you could be born into citizenship.
How do you prove it?
I don't know, but you have an
You
interesting
just be like,
thing
no,
that
I'm not a
happens.
slave. I'm actually a noble.
Well, you had this
Over there.
interesting thing that happens in Acts of the Apostles, which I was actually just reading recently, which is, so you have Paul, right? And he is like a convert. He's a convert to believe in Christ. And he was a Jew and he was like going around, you know, preaching about Jesus and all this stuff. And the Romans got really mad and they prosecuted him and they came after him and everything. And he was like, but I am a Roman citizen. You can't do that to me. And they were like, oh,
Fair
snap.
process.
You're a Roman citizen. That means we can't just arrest you with no due process because we're going to get in super trouble because you can't do that to a Roman citizen. So
There were legal disputes. You had documents testifying your background.
Yeah.
There was manumission records. If someone was once a slave and then
And
they
they
had
bought their way out.
their freedom
Yeah.
or whatever, they were free.
How do you buy freedom from being a slave?
Well, that
Some of them had their own private.
That
they were
happens.
allowed to actually earn money because
Yeah.
their owners allowed them to do it, and they able to save up and buy their freedom.
Yes,
So it was like a slave to own thing. It's like
Slave to
slavery
own.
in
Yeah, slave
slavery
to own.
in the Roman Empire wasn't the same kind of chattel slavery that we had here in the
in the United States, you had
US
people who bought their own slavery.
yes, you did.
Yeah, but
You
that
had
but,
the-
the, but it was still a
Frederick Douglass.
different.
and they were
but
able
it
to
was a
buy their
different kind.
family members out of
Yeah.
slavery as well.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but that was also that like you. If I understand correctly, the way that slaves in the U.S. were treated was as if they were like a beast of burden, like a cow or like a.
They were.
You know,
In
that's
fact-
the way they were treated.
Yeah.
In fact, that was one of the interesting debates of the Constitutional Convention of
Yeah.
the slave state representatives. We want them to count as human beings in the census
Yeah.
to give us more representation in the House.
Which is why the 3/5 compromise. Yeah.
But no, they're actually, we want to treat them as property every other time.
Isn't it funny though that most people have an inverted view of the 3/5 compromise? Liberals tend to argue that the South wanted slaves to be only 3/5 of a person. No, the South wanted them to be full people.
Right. The
Right.
North said
They wanted
3/5.
census.
They cut their power by 40% in the U.S. House.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what the Northern representative said. You can't do it. You can't count them as human beings for the census and then treat them as property. So we're not going to give you the full representation in the census. So they diminished the power of the slave states by 40%.
But yeah, the slavery in the Roman Empire was different to the kind of slavery that was here in the U.S. and in the colonies and the broadly like the Atlantic slave trade. And I think that that slavery in Africa today and in the Middle East today is different to both.
I think it's worse.
Maybe.
Worse there.
I don't know.
I think it was probably worse in the Middle East a while back.
Slavery.
Yeah.
Well, there's still slavery in the Middle East.
Yeah, but I'm saying if you go back 1,000 years or whatever with like the jihad and all that stuff, it was probably substantially worse. They probably would just, you're a slave and you work till you die. We don't feed you. You know, things like that.
That was true in Greece too.
You'll notice in Judeo-Christian civilization there is no slavery anymore.
Not anymore. I mean, that was one of the British, when the British ended slavery globally.
William Wilberforce.
They were the first society to end slavery.
Yeah. And it was William Wilberforce who led decades-long campaign to end slavery inside the British Empire. He is
Yeah.
one of the greatest figures ever in British history.
And as much as you know, considering the fact that the West gets so much hell from itself, from other people in the West, they ignore the fact that no other society ever ended slavery. Like
Notice
the British and the British and Western, they're the only society that ever ended slavery, and they didn't just end it in one country; they ended it basically throughout the whole British Empire, which was almost the whole world.
Of their own volition, paid out, significant sums of money over the course of years to actually end the process. Pretty amazing. It also saved. I mean, you think about how the British did it versus us, because we refused to actually address it and confront it. There were some very bad calculations made at the turn of the 19th century in which they thought it would die of its own volition. It did not. Cotton gin, all that other stuff that continued it on. British Empire ended of its own volition. No massive bloodshed. We did not. Massive bloodshed. And then we finally got it right, obviously, in 1865, but still.
Yep. More people died in one battle in the Civil War than died in the whole Vietnam War. In the whole Vietnam War. More Americans, I'm sorry.
Which
Antietam?
battle? Antietam.
Gettysburg.
Gettysburg, yeah.
Gettysburg.
Antietam, I think, was the bloodiest day in U.S. history, and the bloodiest battle was Gettysburg.
Because it lasted for more than
3 days.
3 days, yeah.
54,000 people.
Antietam,
It's
That
wild.
is
The
a
South
great
could
deal
have
of
won
people.
on
Yeah.
like at the first battle.
Yeah.
Battle of Bull Run. They could have just walked into D.C. and it was over. But the South was like, no, we don't want war. We just want them to leave us alone.
Yeah, leave us alone.
And the North was like, nah.
and then the manufacturing and
way.
manpower,
Yeah.
everything just eventually crushed them.
Yep, they had better weapons. They had breech loading rifles, and the South was still using muskets in Gettysburg. I watched this really cool documentary because Gettysburg's right here. It's like a 40-minute drive.
Antietam's right here.
Yeah, and Antietam's down the street.
Yeah. Which is a really cool
Actually,
battlefield.
You can't walk.
You should
10
go
feet.
there September 17th. That's the anniversary of it.
We found a rusty
interesting.
bayonet on this property, actually.
Oh, wow.
Like if you take a metal detector on this property, you're gonna find Civil War stuff.
So September 17th is the anniversary of Antietam. It's also Constitution Day. But if you go to Antietam on the anniversary, they have park rangers at key points of the battle with living history. It is a really cool experience. I would argue Gettysburg's an amazing battlefield to visit, and Antietam's right there with it. It's a really fascinating battlefield.
Gettysburg's also got a great chocolate shop.
It does.
Really?
Hey,
been to that one?
Antietam? No, but is it Sharps? What's the town near Antietam? Sharpsburg. Yeah, Sharpsburg.
Are you sure?
They have an amazing
Ice cream shop?
Ice cream shop.
Yeah.
It is incredible.
We go there all the time.
Yeah, we took our kids. We took them through the battlefield on the anniversary, the 17th, and then we found this ice cream shop. I want to go back just for the ice cream.
Nutters.
Nutters, yes.
And it's like for $1, they give you like a gallon.
You know, that was the fun. My wife was like,
Oh,
I
wow,
can't
that
believe
looks really good.
that we
We-
just paid
we-
six. We have 4 kids. There were 6 of us. Like, how did we just pay that little for, like,
Yeah.
kids are walking
and
out trying to
there's
balance.
lines out the door.
Yes.
Yeah, so that
Go to Nutters, people.
that spot's super close to our old studio. We used to hop on our mopeds and all just go ride up to Sharpsburg because it was like 15 minutes, and you go through this winding like forest path.
It's so pretty.
it is pretty.
That's a gorgeous path.
And there's also a little pub across the street where they got great wings. What is that? Captain Bender's? Is that what it is? Yep. Sharpsburg, man.
I'm going back.
It's
just for
crazy.
the ice cream.
This whole and then you got John Brown, because Harper's Ferry is right here too. You got John Brown's raid headquarters, and then you basically drive on any road. We would hop on our mopeds and just drive down the road in this whole area. There's like placards everywhere and cannons everywhere. And it's like, yeah, you live where people killed each other. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, there's Harper's Ferry is like one of the most haunted places in the country, apparently.
Oh wow. I don't know.
Yeah.
We got ghosts here. Yeah.
Really?
There's a cemetery on the property
Oh.
from like the late 1700s or 1800s, or early 1800s, I think. And the gravestones have all fallen over and they're washed out. And it's, I think they were telling us that like some of the bones may have come up and washed away or whatever because there's a creek right there or something like that. I don't know. But we keep hearing ghost stories from the employees.
Really? Here?
Yeah.
Like what?
Well, Tales from the Inverted World kept trying to get the computer set up and weird things kept happening.
Oh, I remember Shane was telling me
And that's an
about that.
1800s barn house.
Yeah.
The ceilings are like 6.5 feet. Because, you know, people were really short back
Yeah, right.
then.
Well, and they're also trying to keep heat in the rooms and
Yeah,
winter
it's
and all
kind
that
of
stuff.
it's kind of wild how like low the ceilings are. But so Tales from the Inverted World is the show that Shane Cashman hosts, and it's supposed to be like weird, wild conspiracy and things like this. And the computer would break in weird ways that we largely attributed to human error. But one day, when the computer broke, the graphics card just fell out. Anybody who's put a computer together is going to be like, how did that happen? They were sitting in the room and it went, ka-chonk, and the computer shuts off and they're like, what? And they look and it fell out of the machine. And it's just like, that's weird. And a bunch of other weird things happen. Cameras just fall down.
That's wacky.
Doors won't open.
Has anybody seen any?
Basement is super creepy.
Oh,
this
you
is
don't
this
go
is
in
a
the
thin
basement.
this is a thin place where the other world and this world meet.
I don't know. All I know is the front building is from the 1800s.
Huh.
It's an 1800s farmhouse, and so it's got a lot of history. And then for whatever reason, you know, ghosts.
Ghosts.
Yes.
That proves it. Let's go to Super Chats. If you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button? Subscribe to this channel, share the show with everyone you know, and head over to timcast.com, click join us, become a member, and I'll tell you why. We need you as members. If you believe in the show, if you believe in the work that we do, if you think it's important for us to keep going, we rely on your memberships to make all of it possible. As a member, you get access to our uncensored members-only show and our Discord community. There's a bunch of shows that exist on the Discord. So not only do you get the uncensored show, but you get the morning show. You get the pre-show. You get the after dark show that happens after IRL ends. And there's podcasts on the Discord like Roma Nation. So it's this whole community of creating content, over 20,000 people. And you could join right now. Every single person on Discord is saying, Tim, tell them to join because we want friends and they want to be friends with you. So go to timcast.com, sign up. But for now, we'll grab your Super Chats. Alpha Turkey says, Tim, they're using Californian taxes to build Zola's algorithm and execute it using Lockheed CL-1201. Also, houses in Cali are made from wood to be earthquake-proof, and if hot enough, metal will burn. Indeed, it will. You know, magnesium burns.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Whenever you see like the people with the big drum and there's a fire over it, magnesium fire.
Aluminum burns too.
Does it really? I assume it all burns, you know? How about that? Okay, let's grab some more Super Chats. Anthony Shaw says, with talent on loan from God. Well, okay. Jason Nixon says, you often pitch your website to join the culture, to join Discord, and members doing great things. Have you ever considered shouting out Roman Nation and It's Based Gaming, both from your Discord? I did that earlier today on one of the morning segments. I shout out Roman Nation. But I also want to shout out the, 7 Days to Die? That's the game? Mm-hmm. The Timcast Discord server has its own community zombie game server, 7 Days to Die, I think it's called. Huh. Where you can play games with a bunch of people. I'm telling you, man, it is. I got to be honest. Y'all in the community have created the coolest member program ever. Because you get all these websites and like sign up to be a member, and you can watch this special show and see this special documentary. And then for us, it's like that's just 20,000 people all doing really cool stuff, and you're hanging out. For me, it's like you're helping make the company exist. So, thank you.
Thank you.
And you're watching the Uncensored Show. You can call in if you're a member. You can call us on the phone. And you can call us up and be like, I just plain don't like Ian. And we'll be like, well, okay, I guess. That was always allowed. All right, we'll grab some more. Shot of Jammo. Should I compromise my values and get a Planet Fitness membership to help my overweight friend get in shape, or keep my values and not give Planet Fitness money?
Don't give Planet Fitness money. Avoid it. I mean, look, I say that, but I do have a Planet Fitness membership that I don't, because I travel a lot.
Why?
So, pardon me?
Why wouldn't you join? Why is this a moral question?
Well,
Super
because
woke.
That, and also because
They let fellas in the ladies' rooms.
Yeah.
they do, and all like,
Okay.
but more than that, like
So
it's not really for people that seriously
Right.
want to lift weights.
They have
Go buy your own
they have a
weights.
lunk alarm
Yep.
that you can spin the thing and it goes, "Wee," or something like that.
Yeah, I've never heard one go off, but if you're like grunting or making noise when you're lifting weights, they'll go ahead and they'll embarrass you and try and shame you, because the goal, the argument is we don't want this to be where the meatheads lift weights and stuff, and so they're like, well, we want to have everybody come in here, but really what they want is people that aren't very serious to come in,
Because you sign up for a membership and never come back, which means
right.
the wear
You
and
just
tear
get the month,
and you can't cancel. That's
It's very hard to cancel gym
Oh, really?
membership.
well, because when you sign up, it says a bunch of stuff about like
I've
this is
never
a year-
joined a gym.
Yeah, it says like you're signing up for 2 years, and if you cancel, we'll still charge you. Yep.
I take any money I would have used on a gym membership and I just buy my equipment for my basement.
I was really pissed during
That's
COVID.
a good business. I'm gonna open a
because
gym.
I had a
not a
gym
bad idea.
membership.
It's not bad.
And I went to the gym like every day. And then during COVID, they were like, you have to work out in a mask. And I was like, I can't. And they had all these dividers. And I was like, whenever I come here, there's no space for me. And you're making me wear a mask. You need to let me out of this contract. And they wouldn't. It was infuriating. They changed the terms of the deal and then didn't let me stop paying.
Depending on the gym, you look at the monthlies over the course of a couple years.
It was New York
It adds
Sports
up,
Club.
but it adds up, and then you just go, I have that money to be able to invest in a certain amount of equipment.
Do you guys ever see that video where the woman's doing like a leg press, and then her feet go all the way out, and then
so gross.
they go the other way?
Oh,
gross.
dear God.
Yeah.
I do
those.
what you do. I have I have a treadmill. I have a little exercise bike.
Never lock your knees.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Ever.
No, why would you ever do that?
Bad decisions.
Bad
I don't know.
decisions.
I have a yoga mat. Yeah, I do stuff at my house.
Let's see. What have we here? Not a banned account says undocumented Americans are Americans too.
No.
No. What do you mean undocumented Americans?
Do you remember when they were trying to do the whole undocumented citizens thing?
Yeah, they always try. It's
They started
terms.
saying undocumented citizen because then it means why can't citizens vote?
right.
It's not
No, yeah, no.
Undocumented citizens.
Right.
It's
It's
something
all
happened?
semantics to try and achieve what
this?
they want.
Yeah.
There is no
happened?
such thing as an undocumented.
No, it was just in regard to the gyms. I think the Federal Trade Commission did something good for once. They said that in April 2025, gyms, other businesses are required to make an easy to cancel policy in
One
order
click.
to stop this from happening. Essentially, get someone in the door and then never let them leave.
Yeah, but I don't completely disagree. The issue is people go to the gym and say, I want to sign up for this gym. And the gym's just like, okay, well, there's like a capacity on how many people could be at any time at once. So if you sign up, are you seriously going to be signing up? And they go, sure. And then they never show up again. So sure, some of the gyms are like, we're going to try and squeeze pennies out of you. I think it's largely as a business, you're like, if everybody just came in and signed up and then left, we couldn't function as a business. So if you're signing up for 6 months.
Yeah, I was going to say you have to have like a minimum 6 months, and after that, if they want to cancel, they cancel.
Yeah.
You can't actually build a revenue stream that's consistent as a business if you don't have some commitment.
and everybody signs up January 3rd and then never shows up again.
What do they call it? Quitting day?
Is
I
that
think
what
it's
it
like
is?
second Friday. There's something called Quitter's Day. No, look, I think it's sometime like second Friday or second Saturday in January. Like people last for a couple weeks.
Yeah, Quitter's Day.
Yeah.
That was the 10th.
10th.
Second Friday of January each year, marking day when many people abandon their New Year's resolution.
That's
I
pretty pathetic
I
when
don't
you.
even have a resolution.
That's pretty
No.
pathetic when you think about it.
But it's not,
You don't
because
make it
it's-
past January 10th.
It's sort of dumb to make a New Year's resolution. Like, if you are resolved to do something different with your life, start now. Like, just start now.
Just do it now.
Mm-hmm.
Just do it.
right
Just do
now.
it. Wait a
Right?
minute.
Wait,
Let's do
is
it.
that a
So-
thing? What's that from? I've heard that before.
The thing about like that phrase and stuff is people are really, really good at saying, I'm going to do this. And what happens is you get the same dopamine hit from talking about the thing you want to do as you do from actually going and doing something. Swear to God. That's
you
why
do,
that's why
for
people
sure.
do it. That's why there's so many people that are like, oh, I'm going to do this. You'll talk about it forever. Don't tell people, and you don't need to prepare or blah, blah, blah. Just go start. Starting
It's like
is
that-
the most
21
like
important.
that
days.
Morrissey
Is it 21
song.
days
21
to create
days
a habit?
yes, 21 days, and that's because there's actual physical pathways
Right.
in your brain
That you've
that actually have
created.
to break down.
Yeah, but then also your body becomes addicted to the process and to the dopamine, everything that's released by working out. That's why I'm like, if you can do it for 21 days, there are good addictions in life, and that's one of them, where you have to, your body craves it. So you have to go 21 days.
Yeah, if I like don't work out for
I go
a
crazy.
couple days or something, like my body feels all tense and my legs
too.
feel bad.
Yeah.
and It's terrible.
And I'm a better person for it.
All right. Schlip says, did you guys see the bill to repeal the NFA?
Yes.
Doesn't someone introduce that like all the time, though?
Yes.
What's the NFA?
National Firearms
Firearms
Act. It's what makes short barrel rifles, short barrel shotguns, and suppressors federally regulated.
By the way, though, did you see the news report today? There's 490 million privately owned guns in this country.
Get those numbers up.
As are rookie numbers.
They are rookie. I said this is a nice start. Buy more guns and ammo. We should hit 500 million.
We're talking about what?
By July 4th.
1.5 guns per person, if that, not even 1.3.
I think
but I
it's
think a lot of
it's
people
basically in the
probably have
hands of
more
like
than one,
100
right?
to 110 million. I think is what it.
I
comes down to.
think I
It's an
own
average about
Tattoos,
four
like
and a half
once you
guns.
get one, you just can't stop getting them.
I think I own probably like 50 something like that.
Then you get into the
lot.
Then you start building them.
Haven't done that.
Oh, it's fun.
You gonna get a 3D printer?
Most of the no, I
wanted to build a Makarov carbine
Yeah.
because funny thing happened when like Luke came over and then he was telling me like ammo prices are going up, so you should stock up on some 9mm. And then I just went on ammo.com and just clicked 9mm and I just like clicked the button a bunch, and when it showed up, it was Makarov and Soviet bullets.
Yeah, yeah,
Or
cheap.
I think 3x18.
Yeah. You just gotta clean. Your
And
gun
so
well.
Luke and I looked at them and they were like, it's written in Cyrillic. And we were like, yeah, this is wrong. And then ammo.com emails me and they were like, we realize you probably weren't intending to buy Makarov at that scale. And I was like, you are correct, but it's okay. I want to keep them. And so I was just like, we just need to make a weapon that uses them.
AR-9.
Did you make the weapon?
Is that what uses them? No.
Yeah, AR-9s are awesome.
No, there's something called like a PA, what is it? PA something?
I don't know. You should either build or buy an AR-9. It sounds like a souped up 22. It has the same tiny bit more kick than a 22.
PA 63, was that it?
They're a fun gun. AR-9s.
AR-9s. I've got 2 Makarov handguns. They're Soviet.
Okay.
I think it's the PA 63. Is that what it is?
I don't know.
Let me
I'm
check.
looking at the
Yep. I got 2 of those, and it's funny because it is like miserably bad. They're ergonomic for the right hand only.
It looks
So
miserably bad.
it's miserably bad. It bites your hand. It hurts, and wearing a glove don't help.
yeah.
When we would go to the range, nobody would want to use it. And I'm like, well, that's the thing about the Soviets. They didn't care if it hurt. They just cared that it worked.
That it works, yeah.
Cheap gun, but the funny thing is it's right hand ergonomic.
One of my funny stories is my wife one year gave me a gift certificate to a local gun shop because I really wanted to get a nice hunting over-under shotgun. And I went into the store and he's like, we don't have any. And he's like, right now it's probably going to be on back order. And then I saw a semi-auto MK 1919 assault 12-gauge shotgun. I was like, well, that looks fun. I'll buy that instead. Came home and my wife's like, I gave you a certificate to get a nice hunting shotgun and you come home with this? I'm like, yeah. So then I went next level and bought a 20-round drum for it. It's a great gun. MKA 1919.
It's been a while since I went to the range with these. 9x18. Is that what it is? 9x18 Macaroni? Why did I say 3?
9x18.
I've got it's the 410 shotgun that's AK style. Do you know what it's called?
I don't.
It's been a while since
410?
Yeah, it's
there was a
and I got a 100-round drum on it.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Dude, those are
410.
410.
So I'll sometimes go into the
Sega?
I have a shooting range.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Huh.
Yeah.
And I'll just load up the 20-round drum for the shotgun and you just unload it.
Yeah, it's a 410 Sega, I think.
Yeah.
Huh.
Sega is they make AK style shotguns in 410. They make them.
And I got 100. I think it's a 100-round 410 drum. It's huge and it's silly and it's so much fun.
Dude, they're heavy.
What's wrong with it?
When you fully load up those drums, it's heavy. It's a heavy gun.
Fun.
Yes.
And then I got a KSG 25 is what it is?
Got a lot of guns, Tim.
I do. I got a Barrett.
I got a
Luke was trying to get me to buy a Gatling, like a miniature 9mm Gatling gun. And I was like, Luke, this is too much.
Wow. What you need to
many.
You need to buy at least one M16 fully auto rifle. You can buy them; they're available. It's going to cost you like 40, 50 grand for a good one, but you should buy one.
You need to stamp and all that takes forever.
Well, yeah, but it does. But I mean, you've got time.
I don't have time.
No, but you don't. All you do is fill out the paperwork, and then they do all the stuff. You don't have to. It's not like you have to jump through
Paperwork's
hoops.
crazy.
It is a lot of paper.
I don't have time. Seriously, they do it on purpose.
Yeah.
Yes.
Busy people, you can't do it. All right, where are we at? We'll grab a couple more super chats here. Let's jump all the way down. What do we got?
I'm going to keep sending you.
Big 7588 says, so many guns lost overboard every year. Indeed. One of my favorites is a single action revolver, 22 single action revolver. That's a nice one.
Mm-hmm.
Little itty bitty cowboy gun.
Huh.
All right, let's see. We'll grab one more. BATM says Latin Mass Catholicism or Orthodox Christianity, Eastern or otherwise, something with ancient meaning. What we rally behind can't be insubstantial.
Correct. I like that.
Tradition.
I've been to Latin Mass.
All right, everybody, smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Do you share the show? Do you tell everybody, hey guys, this is the best show? Because apparently, I've heard a lot of people do, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Become a member at timcast.com because that members-only show is coming up in a few minutes. Ned, do you want to shout anything out?
Yeah. Can I shout out the new book? American Leviathan, folks. Great book. I just wrote it. Came out in September. Birth of the Administrative State and Progressive Authoritarianism. If you really want to know what's going on in D.C. today and understand the dynamics and the conflict, you got to read American Leviathan.
Good stuff.
Cool. I got a copy. Thanks for my
Yeah, there
copy.
you go.
I'm Libby Emmons. I'm at the Post Millennial, and you can find me on Twitter at Libby Emmons. And if you have comments or story tips or anything like that, you could email me at liberty@thepm.news. Libby isn't short for liberty, but that would be cool. So.
Awesome. I am Phil That Remains on Twix. You can subscribe to my page there. I'm Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. January 31st, our new record called Anti-Fragile drops. If you want to check some songs out, you can check out Forever Cold, Let You Go, No Tomorrow, and Divine. They're all available on YouTube, Amazon Music, Apple Music, Spotify, Pandora, and Deezer. Now go to Spotify and pre-save the disc. Drops on the 31st, and don't forget, the left lane is for crime.
We will see you all over at timcast.com in about a minute. Thanks for hanging out.